Republicans put on a good show. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I couldn't help but think about all of the years that creative conservatives have been frustrated with the Republican Party and the RNC for like failing to do things well creatively and failing about telling people stories and like reaching into these communities where these stories exist and amplifying the messages and the personal the personal experience of all of these people. And last night I felt like they've done it. Like they've broken through the wall. They know how to do this now. These people are speaking in such a genuine, scripted way. It was awesome. I loved it.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Hey, everybody, thank you for joining us here live at Townhall Media across all of our platforms, as well as our Facebook Live and our YouTube. I'm Larry O'Connor, senior columnist at Townhall, and I'll be hosting tonight's coverage of Day 2 of the Republican National Convention. Joining us now is Katie Pavlich. She needs no introduction. You know Katie. She's a longtime editor here at Townhall. You have been with Townhall as an editor and political editor for what now? 7 years? 8
A decade.
Years? 7 years.
A decade.
No way. No way.
If you count when I started as an intern, it's 11 years.
So you started when you were 15 then?
Yes, of course. 15 years old. Yes. I was a very ambitious young reporter. No, I've been in Townhall for a long time. It's been really cool to see it grow and expand, and the Townhall Media, all of the different platforms we have now. It's really exciting. So we're very different than we were when I started, but we've grown a lot, and it's exciting to cover my 3rd presidential election.
Well, and much of that growth is due to your incredible talent, Katie. Seriously, your energy and your insight. No, I'm serious. And I got to say, I mean,
and I have a good boss too. Jonathan Garthwaite's been a great boss who's given me a lot of freedom to do those things and has trusted my instincts. So, kudos to him. The good ones and the bad.
Well, and also, listen, I've worked at various websites, a lot of websites over the years. It's not normal for somebody to be with one masthead in this age of internet for as long as you have. So it really speaks well of your commitment to Townhall and likewise their commitment to you. So very excited to have you.
Yeah, it's a good place to work. So, and we're happy to have you back.
I am happy to be back too. And this is a great year to be back at Townhall as we're growing so exponentially right now. And we really do want to cover this Republican National Convention in a very unique way. And last night, people just joined us as we were having a casual conversation about the stagecraft. Coming from the entertainment world, I've always been frustrated, Katie, that they couldn't get somebody in the room that knew how to put a show on. Well, someone was in the room last night. That was a great show.
Yeah, you come from Broadway, right? And know so much about how these things should operate and what's good. And they had 4 weeks to get this done. I think they probably had like a plan B just in case they would have to do everything digitally. But I liked having everybody in the same room. I think that the atmosphere of the hall they were speaking from looked like the Lincoln Memorial. It looked very Americana. And most importantly, the stories that people told were just amazing. I mean, Maximo from the Cuban immigrant. I mean, his story just makes you cry when you listen to him speak and how emotional he is about his warning for the country. And then of course you have like the politicians. Nikki Haley did a great job, and I think Tim Scott, them combined, really busted through this false narrative that the Republican Party is a bunch of racists. It's not a diverse party, that they're just trying to, play to the so-called base of white whatevers they want to, portray, deplorables, as they say. So I thought it was a really well done production, and that the stories that they told were very compelling.
I've seen a lot of commentary today, Katie, that this was the Republicans preaching to the choir, that they were, there was nothing new there and they didn't persuade anyone. By the way, at a political convention, I'm okay with preaching to the choir. Part of this is about motivating your party. But I don't know. To me, I think there was a lot of crossover opportunity in last night's presentation. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that Tim Scott said it perfectly when he said, look, I tried to work with Democrats on an issue, but instead of wanting to solve the problem, they wanted to own the issue. So he really exposed that even when you're on the same page with Democrats in terms of legislation, they're not actually interested in working with you. And this argument, as you just mentioned, of, well, it was just speaking to the base. Well, if that's true, then the left is actually giving up an argument that they've been making. If this is the base, you have immigrants, children of immigrants, descendants of slaves, as in Tim Scott's experience, all of these different people who don't come from this stereotypical base that they've been claiming makes up the Republican Party since 2016. So, you can't have both. It's one or the other. So the base is either something that they,
good point.
The base is either something they claim didn't exist, or it is the base and the party is much more diverse than they've been actually telling people about.
The order of events will kick off in about 8 minutes, and we're doing a bit of a preview here with Town Hall editor and Fox News superstar, Katie Pavlich. There's a little dust up today, Katie, about Secretary of State Mike Pompeo delivering his remarks from Israel. Give us a little insight into that. Is this a fake controversy, or is there some legitimate beef here that he's there on state business and participating in a political event?
Well, the organizers of the RNC said they would rather have him here to give the speech. However, Democrats are arguing again that this is not the norm, that secretaries of state or cabinet members shouldn't be speaking at conventions. I don't really see the difference between someone like Sally Yates, who was the deputy attorney general, speaking at the DNC. Now she's not in that capacity anymore, but she was in that capacity. I don't really see a difference between someone like that speaking and the Secretary of State who's currently in the position. The Secretary of State is appointed by a political president who is elected by the people, who is part of a political party. So this idea that things are not political, I just think is something that a facade that people put on for a very long time. I also think that there's a double standard. John Kerry spoke at the DNC convention last week. And of course, he's the former Secretary of State who still thinks he's Secretary of State. And he's been going around meeting with the Iranians secretly. As early, as far, I don't know when the most recent one was, but when I was with Secretary Pompeo in Germany in February, he was at the Munich Security Conference meeting with Zahav Zarif, who is, of course, the foreign minister for Iran, secretly having these meetings and telling them just to wait out the Trump administration and doing this kind of shadow foreign policy. So if he's allowed to speak while he is undermining the United States of America and our goals around the world, I think it's fine for the Secretary of State currently to be speaking from a place at a time when the president has just pushed through this historic peace agreement between the UAE and Israel. They're working on other countries. This is not only just good for the country, it's good for the world. And I would say it shouldn't be political. So I think they're making something out of nothing.
And I don't know if they have made this determination. Do you know, is he going to be speaking from our new embassy in Jerusalem? Because that will also send a very important message, won't it?
I don't know where the speech location is. I have a feeling. Actually, you know what? I think they did it from the hotel because they didn't want to fuel this accusation that this was a sponsored speech. So it's in his personal capacity. We should make that clear. Like, he is making the speech in his personal capacity on behalf of the president. It's not an official government speech. So I don't think it's at the embassy. I think it was in the hotel.
That'll be a big speech tonight, of course. Also, First Lady Melania Trump will be speaking tonight. I don't know, but I like the First Lady. I think she's great. I like most First Ladies, frankly. I also don't live or die based on what they're. What's she going to say? It's her husband, for crying out loud. It's everyone who was gushing about Joe Biden's speech. It's like, of course, she gave a great speech for her husband. It's her husband.
Right. Maybe she'll get up and talk about how she purposely destroyed the Rose Garden and admit to the world that she all of their conspiracy theories about the Rose Garden are actually true, and they got her.
And I'll do it again.
I'll do it again. I'll do it again to every part of the White House. You're right. It's like, what is she going to say? I think it's intriguing because she is not someone who's been so much a public first lady. She has her Be Best campaign, but she's not someone who's like front and center as much as like what Michelle Obama was, for example. Joe Biden has been in politics and public life since really she married Joe Biden as a senator, right? So, she's more of a private person. So I think when she speaks is more interesting because we don't hear a lot from her. But I'm not sure she'll say anything like groundbreaking.
We're about 3 minutes from kicking off our live coverage here at townhall.com. And there's two more speakers tonight I wanted to get your impression on. First, Abby Johnson, anti-abortion advocate. She used to actually run a Planned Parenthood operation out of Houston. There's a lot of people who voted for Donald Trump 4 years ago, Katie Pavlich, based on abortion, based on the trust in him that he would be a warrior on that issue. How do you think he's paid off, and what does it say to you that Abby Johnson is speaking tonight?
Well, first on your question about the president, I mean, he has put his money where his mouth is in a lot of things when it comes to Planned Parenthood. He got rid of $60 million, I believe, of funding that went to Planned Parenthood. He rescinded the Mexico agreement. I think that's the title of it. So we're not funding abortions overseas and sending taxpayer money to abortion clinics. So he's done a lot of work on that end. Planned Parenthood still gets $500 million of taxpayer money a year, but I guess that you could say it's a congressional issue. But he's certainly done a lot more than previous pro-life presidents have in terms of actually holding Planned Parenthood accountable. Abby Johnson's story is a really interesting one, especially considering the science, as the left always likes to say. As the science progresses, the electorate becomes more pro-life. So, Democrats like to try to portray Republicans as extreme on the abortion issue, when actually, if you look at the polling and what people feel about late-term abortion especially, they do believe, and most women actually believe, in restrictions on abortion after 3 months. And so for her to come out after running a Planned Parenthood clinic, which is upheld by Democrats as a savior of women's health and something that we should be funding and does all these great things, really exposes the organization from the inside out. And I admire her for stepping out, and she's been a longtime advocate, but getting on that stage and continuing to fight for what she believes in.
And finally, here in our final minute, Nicholas Sandman, Kentucky high school student. He's 18 years old. He just graduated, and he was destroyed, villainized, absolutely made to be a demon by the media, by the left, by the progressives. He is a perfect example of unjust cancel culture. What do you make of him making remarks tonight?
I mean, he was attacked. He was accosted. His life, they tried to destroy his life. I think he's getting the last laugh, which is a good thing. But I think when you're trying to target certain voters, especially suburban women, this also goes back to the Kavanaugh issue, and you see a 17-year-old kid get up and talk about the experience that he had with the left and the media and how dishonest they were in trying to destroy his life over something that didn't happen. You want to think twice about, putting these people in power after they're willing to do that, not just to a kid, but to anybody.
That's a great point. He's speaking to a lot of moms out there tonight when he could be anybody's son. That's
you want that to happen to your son?
Yeah.
Nobody wants that to happen to their kid.
Will CNN show his speech?
Ooh, good question. They've actually been pretty good at showing all the speeches. So
all right.
Maybe it was part of the settlement. The agreement in the settlement there. Like, actually,
it could have been part of the defamation settlement.
If you show the speech at the RNC.
All right, Katie Pavlich, thank you. I know that you have a very busy night ahead of you, and we're about to kick things off. So thank you for joining us as always, and thanks for all your great work at townhall.com.
Thank you. Head to the live blog at townhall.com. We're getting started. Thanks, Larry.
That's right. Thank you, Katie Pavlich. That's right. In fact, you should have that extra tab up in your browser right now. It's a compendium to our live video and on-the-fly analysis here. You can see all of the live blogging that's being coordinated by Katie and the whole great team of political analysts and writers at townhall.com. And to that end, coming up a little bit later on, we're actually going to be joined by Beth Bauman, one of our, I'm terrible with titles, but I believe that Beth is our associate editor at townhall.com. And she will be joining us a little later to give her insight midway through the evening. The live blog is very dynamic because they can comment on the fly about what's going on via text, via Twitter, via social media, but they also have their finger on the pulse of what's trending as the kids like to say in social media. And so that's a big part of what's going on tonight, of course, because this is such a unique kind of political convention, and so much of the viewership, as we've seen, is actually online. cspan.com, setting aside Nielsen ratings that looks at cable news and broadcast news. C-SPAN, I think they reported today that their numbers were C-SPAN's online viewership for the RNC was something like 10 times higher than C-SPAN's online viewership for the DNC, which I think tells you that the Republican audience is a lot more media savvy, or a lot more internet savvy and social media savvy. And so the great power of the Townhall Media live blog is that they've got their finger on the pulse of what's trending both on the left and the right during these speeches and during these presentations. So make sure you have that tab up. Micah, let me know when we're ready to go with the live feed. Go ahead and interrupt me and go right to the live feed as soon as they start it from the Republican National Committee. Oh, there we go. It looks like we have begun. Is that what we're hearing? We are hearing. All right, let's get started, and we'll be joined by CRIS from AM 990 The Answer in Philadelphia in just a moment.
I'm going to invite you to join your faith with mine, and let's pray in agreement. Lord, we come before you to ask for your spirit of peace to come over hurting communities in Wisconsin tonight. We pray for healing and comfort to Jacob Lake and his family. We pray for your protection over those who put their lives in harm's way to bring safety and security to our streets. We pray that the truth and justice will be at the heart of all decisions that are made by our leaders, and that we as people will seek reconciliation with you as we do the same with each other. Thank you, Lord, for your goodness over our lives, for your blessing over our nation, for your guiding hand over every person that calls the United States of America their home. Lord, we thank you for all that have gone before us and have sowed seeds of sacrifice for our freedom, for our prosperity, and for our peace. Those that gave their lives so that we could live and achieve the American dream. Your word declares in 2 Corinthians, where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. This country was founded by the people for their God. Liberty, freedom, equality, it's what we want in our country. Lord, we invite you into our homes, into our lives. Give us revelation that will overthrow any enemies that stand against us so that we will be victorious in this next season. We need you. Let your kingdom come. Let your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. We surrender to your plans and purpose for our lives. We ask, bring heaven down to earth over every person here and all those watching today. As we move into this next chapter in our journey to greatness, we ask for your presence to be with us. Lead us, Lord. Give us strategies from heaven. I decree the words of Isaiah 11:2 over our president, vice president, and all government authorities from every state and nation. May the Spirit of the Lord rest on him, the spirit of wisdom and understanding, the spirit of counsel and might, the spirit of knowledge and the fear of the Lord. I release a blessing over every person and every home. Lord, release health, healing, peace, strength, and courage. Let us stand together in unity as we embrace another chapter on our journey to greatness. I decree and declare, America, the best is yet to come. And I ask all this in the name of Jesus. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yate. I'm Myron Lizer, the Vice President of the Navajo Nation. I give this address from the majestic rock spires of Shipra, Sebet-I, or rock with wings as known by our Dene people. It is here as well that many of our ancestral leaders sought to govern and lead a nation within a nation. They sought
All
to
right,
lead
that
the
is
people into the promises of a better way
Myron
of life for
Lizer, the
their
Vice President of the
children.
Navajo
It is
Nation,
also where
addressing
they
the
have not been as
Republican National
successful as the
Convention.
rest of America.
We are aware that it's a little
Perishing
glitchy,
full
by the
the
way.
host
We
people
think
of the
that's the
land.
feed from
We
the
are still
Republican
here.
National
Our
Committee, but
Creator
we will
placed us
try to
here and knew for such a time as
lock
this,
that
we
in
would have
and
an
reset it
opportunity
perhaps
for an
as
appeal
well.
to heaven.
Do we have Chris
People have never
DeGaulle
been invited
with
into
us
the
now?
American
Can we
dream.
bring in Chris
We, for
DeGaulle?
years, fought congressional battles with past
Oh,
congressmen and
not yet. All
senators
right,
that
Chris
were
DeGaulle will be
part of a
joining us in
broken
just a
system
moment
that ignored us.
from
That
AM
is,
990
until
The Answer in
President Trump took
Philadelphia
office.
to
President
get us
Trump
locked in
delivered the
here.
largest
Uh,
financial funding package ever to Indian country. The $8 billion in funding
I mean,
to
we can
Indian
go
country
ahead
was
and
a
listen.
great
You know what?
alleviate the
Let's
devastating
let's
effects that
bring
the
him down a
COVID-19
bit.
pandemic has
This is some of the and again, I just want to remind everybody watching on Facebook or on YouTube or on Townhall Media, we are not going to show every single person speaking. I know people get upset when the cable news stations and such talk over it. If you want to see every single thing without interruption, you know, C-SPAN has that. But we are going to give some analysis as well. I want to give you a rundown of who we're going to have tonight. As I mentioned with Katie Pavlich just now, Nicholas Sandman is going to be part of the rundown. He, of course, the young man who was vilified and destroyed erroneously. They lied about him. They tried to ruin his life as a 16-year-old because he was wearing a MAGA hat and because he attended the March for Life in Washington, D.C. This is his first public appearance since that horrible episode a little under 2 years ago. He'll be part of the proceedings. Mary Ann Mendoza will be there. Her son died after getting hit by a drunk driver who was an illegal alien. I've actually interviewed Mary Ann Mendoza. That happened right here in the nation's capital, and her son, if I remember right, was also a volunteer fireman. She's fantastic, and that's going to be a great presentation as well. It looks like tonight, law and order is a big part of tonight's proceedings. In fact, let's pop into this produced video real fast and see what they're talking about here.
I caught my first felony conviction at 16 years old, and that type of behavior had led me into more arrests, getting in trouble until the age of 30 years old. I was arrested.
Micah, go ahead. That's a good idea. Let's reset our connection with the RNC. We are supplied our live stream from the Republican National Committee, and of course, there's a lot of interest in tonight's proceedings. So we're going to go ahead and reset that connection and make sure, because I don't want you to have to suffer through a glitchy connection tonight. Town Hall's better than that. You deserve better than that. So we're going to reset that in a moment. Thank you, Micah, for doing that. In the meantime, let me give you some more of the rundown. Former Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi is going to be on the stage. Again, I'm seeing a couple of attorney generals here, which tells me that, and then a woman whose son, an angel mom, whose son was killed by a illegal immigrant. To me, when you look at this lineup, it tells me that law and order is a big part of the messaging tonight, and I think that many voters are craving that message, especially compared to what we heard last week from the Democrats. Former Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi, as I said. Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron is also on the list. Florida Lieutenant Governor Jeanette Nunez. That's two statewide representatives from Florida. You think Florida is important? That's also the president's home state now, by the way. Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky will be on the list tonight, which is very interesting. He's the only senator on the list tonight. And Rand Paul, as you know, is a bit of a mixed bag in terms of not necessarily being a doctrinaire values conservative per se, much more of a traditional libertarian, right? But that said, neither is Donald Trump a doctrinaire values principled conservative, right? I will say this about Rand Paul, though, except for a couple of the president's foreign policy initiatives, he has been one of the most stalwart supporters of the president's agenda in the United States Congress. He has been a very reliable voice and a very reliable advocate on behalf of the president's agenda, again, except for a couple of items in his national security focus. it'll be interesting to hear what Rand Paul has to say. I also like to refer to the senator from Kentucky as a perennial presidential candidate. Every year that it's not a Republican incumbent like this year, Rand Paul will be running for president. It's just the way it goes. And by the way, to offset Rand Paul's rather protectionist, I shouldn't say protectionist, excuse me, non-interventionist foreign policy perspective, we will have Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, the former congressman from Kansas, former CIA director for the beginning part of the Trump administration, and many people will be eyeing his speech tonight as potentially, as we did last night with Nikki Haley and Tim Scott, as a precursor to a potential 2024 run for the White House. Also, by the way, Mike Pompeo will be speaking from Israel, which has a little bit of controversy. Some Democrats are trying to make hay out of it. As usual, Democrats are trying to criminalize political opposition, and they're saying that this is against the law. Speaking of Democrats, Chris DeGaulle is with us now. Chris DeGaulle, morning talk show host at AM 990, The Answer in Philadelphia. Of course, he's not a Democrat, but you know Democrats, don't you, Chris?
Oh, I know plenty of them. And like Mike Pompeo, I'm also coming to you live from Israel.
Wow.
No, that's not
yeah,
true.
It looked fantastic there. Is it Tel Aviv or you look? No. Oh, you were lying.
The most posh part of Tel Aviv with the one swimming pool.
The most posh part. Have you seen this
Right.
little controversy? They're saying that Secretary of State Pompeo is violating the Hatch Act because he is in Israel on official business, and while he's there, he's participating in a political event.
Yeah. Where'd they get that? From Sally Yates?
Yeah, I think that's what it is. I think it's going to be the next Jim Comey miniseries is going to be based on this one. Yeah.
Haven't we done this before? We've been here before. I think we've heard it all before. You know, yesterday it was somebody shouted monkey at a Trump event, and the post office, and they cannot possibly create more chaos and nonsense on a daily basis. Do you think after a while, it's like that girlfriend that you used to date in high school who was just always so violently dramatic that at some point, some people that loved you got next to you and said, is it worth it? That's the Democrats. They've just, I think they're overplaying it now.
Listen, I just want to give you an update, everyone at Townhall Media and across our social media platforms. There is serious trouble with the Republican National Committee's stream. It's quite shaky and quite glitchy, and it's not our presentation, it's the Republican Committee's presentation, and we're going to bring it to you, but only if it's solid and strong. So as soon as our production team knows that we've got a solid signal, we'll go ahead and present it to you. I was just giving a rundown, Chris, and it looks to me like tonight is kind of a law and order message when you've got a couple of attorney generals, you've got an angel mom whose son was killed by an illegal alien. What did you hear from your listeners in Philadelphia this morning? Were they my listeners in DC said, I want to hear more about the riots. I want to hear more about supporting police officers.
Yes, similarly, and again, a little bit of bias because I kind of dictate the terms of the discussion often every morning. So my theme has been one on the show, and a lot of the folks that listen to our show continue to hammer home. Donald Trump Jr. touched on it, I think, best. The seminal line last night for me was it's between churches, schools, and work versus riots, looting, and burning, or something that I'm paraphrasing. But that's it. That's ball game. In Pennsylvania, as I told you before, people can't go to church. You know, people can't go to work. People are trying to figure out how to school their kids at the house while they work on these godforsaken Zoom calls. People don't want this. They feel like they're in utter hell. And I had State Senator Doug Mastriano, who's a real rising star in Pennsylvania politics, on today. He's gotten close with the Trump apparatus as of late in Pennsylvania. And I asked him directly, I said, do they get it? Do they really understand how ticked off Pennsylvanians are, how mad, how frustrated, how depressed, how insufferable this perpetual COVID lockdown thing is while we watch the riots and the chaos? He said, I'm not sure they do, which kind of alarmed me. He said he's not entirely sure they're totally keyed in on just how much this is messing with the American psyche in states like Pennsylvania and New Jersey and New York and your Maryland. Maybe less so in Maryland. Yeah. I'm not sure, Larry, you could speak to it, but we got to hear it. We got to hear more, much more of that.
We do. And listen, I remember in 2016, if you remember right, the 2016 Trump speech in Cleveland was very heavy on law and order. I will be the law and order president. Very pro-police. If I remember right, there had just been a Black Lives Matter violent incident in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, if I remember right. And of course, we were coming off of the murder of police officers in Dallas, I think, the month before. But I mean, we didn't have ongoing riots and arson in the street. And even then, Trump honed in on that message. I've got to think that that's going to be a big part of his speech Thursday night, Chris.
You probably saw today. I would agree with you, Larry. I think it will be a huge law and order message on Thursday. You saw Seattle Black Lives Matter rioters tried to burn officers alive by using concrete to seal precinct doors shut before starting a fire. That's the newest news to come out of Seattle. Tried to seal a precinct shut with cement, concrete, and then light it on fire. So if this proves to be true, I guess ATF is now involved in investigating it. But if that proves true, that's a whole new level. Again, what Wisconsin, the cops need to be punished.
Yeah. Chris, we're now getting some bugs on your stream as well. So we might need to get a reset from Chris DeGaulle there in rural Pennsylvania as well, where this election will be decided, I'll have you know. So we got to get Chris DeGaulle's perspective on this. By the way, later this evening, we are going to have Kurt Schlichter rounding things up. Kurt Schlichter will be our final commentator, as he was last night, giving us his final thing. The president right now is signing a clemency order. There's an FBI special agent in it looks like the Eisenhower room, and he just signed a clemency order. And I'm trying to get the details of this. And as soon as we get a solid stream, by the way, we will be giving it to you. And right now, Senator Rand Paul, who has been a champion for criminal justice reform in the United States Senate, is speaking. So that's why he's part of the proceedings tonight, because of criminal justice reform. Micah, while we're waiting for Chris, can we pop in and see if the RNC's stream has improved at all, and possibly bring that up? All right, in a second, we'll bring you Senator Rand Paul, who's, by the way, his hair looks fabulous tonight. You know, it's always touch and go with Rand Paul. You never know. I mean, it's touch and go with me too. By the way, I think my hair looks pretty good tonight. But Rand Paul's hair looks quite good. He has not gotten a haircut during COVID, I don't think. He looks better with longer hair. So we'll be bringing you that in a moment. Also, Beth Bauman from our townhall.com, our Townhall Media political analysis.
Guy with his own plane and helicopter, but who's counting? I was planning a medical mission trip to Guatemala to perform charity eye surgeries, and we needed money to fund the trip. Donald Trump offered to help and immediately came through for us. Not only did he support my medical mission to Guatemala, but he also contributed to another mission trip to Haiti a year later. We performed hundreds of cataract surgeries in both countries. Nothing is more amazing than removing the bandages from a person's eyes and watching them as they see their loved ones again. Donald Trump helped me make that happen. A few years later, we were opponents, both running for president, and we all know how that turned out. But I'm proud of the job Donald Trump has done as president. I don't always agree with him, but our occasional policy differences are far outweighed by our significant agreements. But more important than simple agreement is accomplishment. President Trump gets things done. When some in Congress wanted a so-called revenue-neutral tax plan, Donald Trump and I worked together to make sure that it was a true tax cut. I brought President Trump an idea for better, less expensive health insurance called Association Health Plans. Donald Trump overturned years of red tape and bureaucrats, and he made it happen. While others talked about criminal justice reform, President Trump actually signed the First Step Act. the first real reform in a generation, and one that sought to undo the harm that others, like Joe Biden, have done. For those of us who lament the Biden crime bill that locked up a generation of young black men, remember that Biden bragged about a bill that still wreaks havoc among people of color. I'm supporting President Trump because he believes, as I do, that a strong America cannot fight endless wars. We must not continue to leave our blood and treasure in Middle East quagmires. I flew with him to Dover Air Force Base to honor 2 soldiers whose remains were coming home from Afghanistan. I'll never forget that evening. I can tell you the president not only felt the pain of these families, but that the president is committed to ending this war. President Trump is the first president in a generation to seek to end war rather than start one. He intends to end the war in Afghanistan. He is bringing our men and women home. Madison once wrote, "No nation can preserve its freedom in the midst of continuous warfare." I'm proud to finally see a president who agrees with that. Compare President Trump with the disastrous record of Joe Biden, who has consistently called for more war. Joe Biden voted for the Iraq War, which President Trump has long called the worst geopolitical mistake of our generation. I fear Biden will choose war again. He supported the war in Serbia, Syria, Libya. Joe Biden will continue to spill our blood and treasure. President Trump will bring our heroes home. If you hate war like I hate war, if you want us to quit sending $50 billion every year to Afghanistan to build their roads and bridges instead of building them here at home, you need to support President Trump for another term.
Wow.
So to our soldiers and their families, join me in supporting President Trump. To those of you who want lower taxes and better, less expensive health care, join me in supporting President Trump. To those of you who want to stand up and fight the socialists poisoning our schools and burning our cities, join me in supporting President Trump. Let's rebuild America together.
Wow, Chris DeGaulle, I got to tell you, that line, let's build our roads instead of Afghanistan's roads, that is literally directly from Barack Obama in 2008. I mean, I'm still a little disoriented as a Republican about this whole thing. You know what I mean?
There was a time not long ago when his dad was considered a wacko, quite frankly, in Republican circles. Remember that?
Yeah, he was the Bernie Sanders.
I say that with affection. Yeah. I don't literally mean wacko. I mean, there were some very good people of goodwill that supported Ron Paul. Now I've started something. But Rand has always been a more measured guy, but persnickety, and certainly not the party line guy, not the GOP party line, toe the party line guy like Mitt Romney. So his embrace of Donald Trump, that's a faction of this party that no Republican in modern history has been able to tap into.
Well, hold on there, Chris DeGaulle. Hold on. Now, I would say that Ronald Reagan figured out a way to build this three-legged stool of the Republican Party. He was able to coalesce the Christian conservatives, led by the moral majority at the time, and people who were very worried about abortion and faith and values. He was able to bring together this Ronald Reagan now. Secondly, the faction for national security, the war hawks, the Cold Warriors who were worried about communism in the Soviet Union. And Ronald Reagan really spoke to those libertarians. Ronald Reagan spoke to those people who, Washington is not the solution to the problem, it is the problem sort of thing. I think the Republican Party over the last 20 years before Donald Trump, they ignored the libertarians to their peril, frankly. And I welcome it.
Sure.
Yeah.
You're much older than me, so you have a bit of a memory of Ronald Reagan's presidency. I don't. I was young. What I do know is that in the modern era of the
in the Bush.
The Bush
You're right.
Warhawk.
Yes.
Yeah,
Bush Warhawk.
Dick Cheney,
neocon.
saber rattling. Yes.
No,
he is a welcome breath of fresh air. Yeah.
On this, we agree. It is not Bill Kristol's Republican Party anymore. This is Jason Joyce, a lobsterman from Maine, a lobsterman.
Really?
I used to call you a lobsterman.
You been to Maine?
I have not.
I was a rock lobsterman. Rock lobster. I have been to Maine last August. It is maybe one of the most beautiful places on earth. Bar Harbor, Maine, and Acadia National Park. Bury me there. I love it there.
Noted.
This is an aside. This brought to you by the Chamber of Commerce of Maine.
Exactly. Earlier this evening, we let things off with Katie Pavlich, the editor at Townhall, and we were we didn't know for sure where Secretary of State Pompeo was going to be delivering his speech tonight from Israel. But Katie has just messaged me and let me know it won't be at the brand new embassy. And it will not be at a hotel. Get this. This is a ballsy move, if I may say. He's going to be in the city of David, the ancient, historic, biblical city of David, right around the corner from the Temple Mount and the Western Wall. That's quite a message for Mike Pompeo to be standing there delivering that speech.
Yeah, it is. Maybe. Well, yeah. No, I'll hold my fire. That's about as big a middle finger as you can extend to the PLO Hamas type, is it not?
Yeah, as a new sheriff in town. Yeah, exactly. That's all right. So we will be looking forward to that for sure. One line from last night that I saw real positive response from millennials on Twitter, Chris, and it was just echoed by Rand Paul. And that was that President Trump is the first president in decades to not start a war. That's quite a line, actually, and it resonated. I think, well, you're a lot younger than me, but I think that actually really matters to a lot of voters.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I am younger than you, so I think I'm probably switched on and plugged into what the youth want. I mean, you could ask your wife, but what we know is that, yes, there is no appetite these days for sending our men and women into harm's way. We're tired of it. We're exhausted with it. And there was a place in time when, I was thinking a lot about Bush and the Bullhorn, on the rubble, 9/11. Remember that? We're going to go kick their ass. It's the American way. Toby Keith feeling that we had there was that in this country. And it wasn't that long ago that we all wanted to go hard charging in and tie a yellow ribbon and let's kick some ass. But yeah, doesn't it feel like it was forever ago in a way too?
And I'm not pro-war. I don't think anybody in America is pro-war per se. But it is interesting that there seems to be a defining of what the Republican Party stands for based on this presentation, that they're really emphasizing that we're not looking for a fight. And that is, frankly, kind of a new message for our party.
Yes. Yes, it is. And look, Donald Trump has taught me a lot. I'm going to be the first person to admit, I come to this humbly and honestly. In 2016, like so many people that are watching us, I'm sure, or have listened to your show or mine, I was a Ted Cruz guy because I believed in sort of the doctrinaire notion of what being a conservative meant.
Me too.
I just didn't believe that's who Donald Trump was. And so it was about this academic exercise of being a pure conservative about policy. Well, it turns out Donald Trump was those things. He just sold it differently, and he talked about the country differently. And I have been so pleasantly surprised, and I've learned a lot. I learned that we don't have to stay endlessly in countries where we don't belong, that are quagmires, out of patriotism. And I used to embrace that, and I was wrong. And Donald Trump has taught me that. And the people that early supported Donald Trump taught me that. So the era of Trump for me, as a conservative Republican, I've learned a lot. And I've been brought along. I used to arrogantly think Donald Trump can't teach me anything about politics. I'm a very informed talk show host. Yeah, maybe, but I didn't know what the hell the people were thinking. I'm ashamed to say. He did. I didn't.
Yeah. Who are these twins we keep seeing? Are they twins or are they just sisters who wear their hair the same? Have you seen? They keep showing these two women.
No, I missed it.
Well, now it's.
Are they?
Now it's. I didn't mean to pique your interest there.
Rewind.
There.
I'm always
that's one
up for hearing about twins.
Yeah, all right. That we'll follow that.
Oh,
later.
you know who I had on the show today? Speaking of ladies,
here they are. Yeah. All right.
They look. I don't know who they are. But I had that lovely lady Tanya, the coffee shop owner from Billings, Montana, on the radio show this morning. What a lovely woman she was. I got a little behind the scenes, chat with how these people are found. The RNC reaches out to them, flies them into D.C. She recorded that piece on a Saturday, and it was funny. She said, I woke up Sunday to do a little bit of tourism before I flew back to Montana, and she said, Chris, it's just so striking what it's like to be in a city like D.C. versus coming home to Billings. She said, it's desolate. It's dark and desolate and depressing. Again, John Podhoretz said at the New York Post today, these media people they don't know. It's so redundant and almost lazy to say, they don't know what's going on in Billings, Montana, and they don't care. They don't know what's going on in southern Missouri, and they don't care. They don't know what's going on in your wife's Oklahoma, and they don't care. Yeah. And they're not asking. They think reality is Washington and New York, maybe Philadelphia if they dare come. And they think that's what's going on across the country. It's not, Larry, as you know.
But Chris, that's where they campaign. That's where they try to win. I mean, look at the electoral map, the blue states and red states. I mean, it's the Northeast, it's the entire West Coast, and it's Illinois and maybe a couple of states that they have to give lip service to every 4 years. You're absolutely right. And God forbid we get rid of the Electoral College, because it'll even be more. They won't even give lip service to those middle states. They won't need to. And you're right. It is. No. It's. By the way, I'm told that this video presentation is about PPP and how it saved so many small businesses and mid-sized businesses during COVID-19. That's what we're.
I'm down with PPP. You know me.
I've never been against PPP. Let's check in with Larry Kudlow. We like our Larry Kudlow. Larry Kudlow, senior financial advisor to the president.
The team crafted Donald Trump's economic plan during the campaign. It was a roaring success. Inheriting a stagnant economy on the front end of recession, the program of tax cuts, historic rollback of onerous regulations that crippled small business, unleashing energy to become the world's #1 producer, and free, fair, and reciprocal trade deals to bolster manufacturing, agriculture, technology, and other sectors. The economy was rebuilt in 3 years. Unemployment fell to the lowest rate of 3.5%. Blue collars, African Americans, Hispanics, women, all groups benefited enormously. Everyone was better off. A rising tide lifted all boats. Then came a once-in-100-year pandemic. It was awful. Health and economic impacts were tragic. Hardship and heartbreak were everywhere. But presidential leadership came swiftly and effectively with an extraordinary rescue for health and safety to successfully fight the COVID virus. A great bipartisan rescue also saved the economy. Right now, our economic health is coming back. With emergency spending and tax cuts, Americans are going back to work. There's a housing boom, there's an auto boom, a manufacturing boom, a consumer spending boom. Stocks are in record territory. A V-shaped recovery is pointing to better than 20% growth in the second half of this year. Now, looking ahead, more tax cuts and regulatory rollback will be in store. Payroll tax cuts for higher wages, income tax cuts for the middle class, capital gains tax cuts for investment, productivity, and jobs. Much more regulatory relief for small businesses. In economic terms, folks, this is no time for a $4 trillion tax hike. Coming out of the deep pandemic, Who in their right mind would pick the pockets of taxpayers and drain money from their wallets and purses? Look, our economic choice is very clear. Do you want economic health, prosperity, opportunity, and optimism? Or do you want to turn back to the dark days of stagnation, recession, and pessimism? I believe there can't be better economic policies than we've had in recent years. So I say, stay with them. Thank you.
Larry Kudlow, a great communicator, which is so important in these settings. And it's funny that the president is often criticized, Chris, for hiring people for his cabinet or for senior advisory positions who are good on television. You know, they say that he watches Fox News and Fox Business, and that's how he, that's his talent pool. But there is something to be said about being able to effectively and passionately communicate a message to a broad audience. That's part of politics, and Kudlow is better than anyone at.
Yes, it's everything. It's ball game. I mean, let me give you a little insight into that. After you and I ended our conversation last night, and I sat down next to my wife and watched the remainder of the evening's events. Nikki Haley came to the podium. Now, she gave a wonderful speech. You probably discussed that here too, and on your radio show, as I did. It was a great speech, but this was unsolicited from my wife, a Republican voter, not an enthusiastic Trump backer by any means, but she voted for Trump and she'll do it again. And she said to me, does Nikki Haley intend to have a political career beyond this? You think she's going to run again? I said, a lot of people believe she wants it. And this unsolicited, my wife said, well, she's going to have to pick up on her energy level. And now my wife's she doesn't talk that way. She doesn't really think about or talk about style. She is very substantive. She listens to message. And it struck me that Donald Trump has changed the dynamic. We talked about this last night, about the way we message and the way we communicate with the American people. And his style is going to leave a vacancy in the Republican Party, whether he loses this year or carries on for another 4. When he's done, the Republicans are going to have to figure out how to talk like Larry Kudlow and Donald Trump, because the days of these starched, stiff speeches are over. They must never return. Donald Trump has changed the game in terms of communication, in my view. You may disagree.
We'll see. Well, it's not that I disagree. It's just that I think that Donald Trump is such a unique and once in a, century kind of political figure that I don't know. I don't know 4 years from now if the wisest choice will be, well, we got to try to bring a little bit of Trump to the table. Maybe the stoic Mike Pence sort of delivery will be an antidote to 8 years of relentless Trump dynamism. I don't know. But I get what you're saying.
Well, maybe you're right. Maybe you're right.
I don't know.
Yeah. Mike Pence, there's a seriousness and a stoicism about Pence. I agree, that made a lot of people like me comfortable with Trump. There was this sense of, okay, well, if things go off the rails, at least Pence is there. And this is me being honest. 4 years ago, I don't feel that way anymore. So I don't know. Maybe you're right and I'm wrong. I just feel like it's you know what it is? It's not style. I don't mean style. I don't even mean tweets. I mean the authenticity. I mean the ability to stand there and just say it, and not stuffed shirt, not scripted, not stiff. I hope we can get rid of that. I hope.
And in that vein, I'm interested in your. We had 2 prominent figures from the state of South Carolina deliver major speeches. You mentioned Ambassador Nikki Haley, and then you had Senator Tim Scott. And I got to tell you, I was blown away by Senator Scott. Talk about authenticity. Talk about just energy and just telling it like it is. I mean, I've seen him before. I've seen him in person as well as on television. I've never seen Tim Scott like that.
No, he was very, very keyed in and passionate about. I mean, everybody's talked about the line this morning, from cotton to Congress in one lifetime.
Yeah.
In fact, as we see Billy Graham's granddaughter here, I'd be very curious. This is also another component of it, Larry, that Tim Scott invoked, and people in the South care about, and evangelicals care about this very much. It's interesting, the faith. They're putting that front and center here tonight.
In fact, let's take a listen to the granddaughter of the late Reverend Billy Graham.
Democrats tried to force adoption agencies to violate their deeply held beliefs. Democrats pressured schools to allow boys to compete in girls' sports and use girls' locker rooms. Those are the facts. But then, we, the people, elected Donald Trump. People of faith suddenly had a fierce advocate in the White House. He appointed judges who respect the First Amendment. He supported religious beliefs in court. He ensured religious ministries would not be forced to violate their beliefs. He withdrew the policies that placed our little girls at risk. And on the world stage, President Trump became the first president to talk about the importance of religious freedom at the United Nations, giving hope to people of faith around the world. In America, we have not yet experienced physical persecution, even though the left has tried to silence us. Even during the pandemic, we saw how quickly life can change. Some Democratic leaders tried to ban church services, while marijuana shops and abortion clinics were declared essential. But you know what truly is essential? Our right to worship freely and live our faith in every aspect of life. The Biden-Harris vision for America leaves no room for people of faith. Whether you're a baker, a florist, or a football coach, they will force the choice between being obedient to God or to Caesar, because the radical left's God is government power. So in the words of my grandfather, Billy Graham, let us stand for political freedom, moral freedom, religious freedom, and the rights of all Americans. And let's never give in to those who would attempt to take it from us. Tonight, I'm proudly standing in that public square, and I hope and pray you will join me in voting to re-elect President Trump.
Wow, the Biden-Harris America. That's very strong, obviously, and you know it's interesting. Billy Graham, of course, a spiritual advisor to 7 presidents, I think, going all the way back to Truman, I believe. Seen as nonpartisan. You know, his political party was baptism. But now you've got his granddaughter just full on endorsing the president, and not only that, but basically saying the Democrats are no longer the party of God and the Bible.
Well, how about the specific line? There is no room for God in the Biden-Harris ticket. Yeah, you don't get more clear than that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I'll tell you, it's funny that there's this non-controversy about evangelical Christians and that there's supposed to be some hypocrisy or some conflict between their personal faith and supporting President Trump. It does not exist. Every single believing, faithful Christian I know they are able to reconcile and recognize exactly who Donald Trump is and how important he is as their president. And boy, you sure saw it there with someone with an august name like Graham.
And it's just a shame that we have to continue to repeat it over and over again. But, you know, as good Christians, at least I count myself as, well, I shouldn't say good Christian, but as a practicing Christian who tries to get it right. What a lot of people who are not of faith don't understand about those of us who try to adhere to our faith is it is not about being a perfect or exemplary Christian. It is not about wanting a president or expecting a president to be an exemplary Christian. It's about a president who respects our right to practice. And there's a huge difference. And they don't get it. They've never gotten that.
Yeah.
Never.
I have never ever in my entire adult life and I've engaged in serious adult political conversations since I was a teenager. I have never spoken to a person of faith who has ever said,
so that was back in the 40s?
I've never spoken to anyone where they have said, I can't vote for that person because he's a sinner. I can't vote for that person because they're an adulterer. I won't vote for that person. Yeah, you know, that's because we're all sinners, for God's sake. That's all. That's what our faith is about. Oh, let's go into this is Abby Johnson, anti-abortion advocate, who
I'm a pro-life activist. When I was in college, Planned Parenthood approached me at a volunteer fair. They talked about helping women in crisis and their commitment to keep abortion safe, legal, and rare. I was convinced to volunteer and later offered a full-time job as a medical assistant before my promotion to director of the clinic. I truly believed I was helping women, but things drastically changed in 2009. In April, I was awarded Planned Parenthood's Employee of the Year Award and invited to their annual gala where they present the Margaret Sanger Award, named for their founder. And Margaret Sanger was a racist who believed in eugenics. Her goal when founding Planned Parenthood was to eradicate the minority population. Today, almost 80% of Planned Parenthood abortion facilities are strategically located in minority neighborhoods. And every year, Planned Parenthood celebrates its racist roots by presenting the Margaret Sanger Award. Later in August, my supervisor assigned me a new quota to meet, an abortion quota. I was expected to sell double the abortions performed the previous year. When I pushed back, underscoring Planned Parenthood's public-facing goal of decreasing abortions, I was reprimanded and told, "Abortion is how we make our money." But the tipping point came a month later when a physician asked me to assist with an ultrasound-guided abortion. Nothing prepared me for what I saw on the screen. An unborn baby fighting back, desperate to move away from the suction. And I'll never forget what the doctor said next. "Beam me up, Scotty." The last thing I saw was a spine twirling around in the mother's womb before succumbing to the force of the suction. On October 6th, I left the clinic, looking back only to remember why I now advocate so passionately for life. I founded and currently run And Then There Were None, a nonprofit organization that's helped nearly 600 abortion workers transition out of the industry. For most people who consider themselves pro-life, abortion is abstract. They can't even conceive of the barbarity. They don't know about the products of conception room and abortion clinics where infant corpses are pieced back together to ensure nothing remains in the mother's wombs, or that we joked and called it the pieces of children room. You see, for me, abortion is real. I know what it sounds like. I know what abortion smells like. Did you know abortion even had a smell? I've been the perpetrator to these babies, to these women, and I now support President Trump because he has done more for the unborn than any other president. During his first month in office, he banned federal funds for global health groups that promote abortion. That same year, he overturned an Obama-Biden rule that allowed government subsidy of abortion. He appointed a record number of pro-life judges, including 2 Supreme Court justices. And importantly, he announced a new rule protecting the rights of healthcare workers objecting to abortion, many of whom I work with every day. Life is a core tenet of who we are as Americans. And this election is a choice between 2 radical anti-life activists and the most pro-life president we have ever had. That's something that should compel you to action. Go door to door, make calls, talk to your neighbors and friends, and vote on November 3rd. Take action that reelects our president, and do it with our very most vulnerable Americans in mind, the ones who haven't been born yet.
I just felt like we should have a moment of silence after that. First of all, I need somebody to let me know if CNN or MSNBC ran that, or if they cut in and they did not allow their. I need to know. We have Nick Sandman is coming.
How chilling in your core. Yeah, in the core of your soul, in the pit of your stomach, in your veins, hearing. Did you know abortion has a smell? Boy, does that make you stop and process. Oof.
Chris, I gotta say, obviously, the life issue has always been a critical component to the Republican Party since President Ronald Reagan. But you get the sense that the Mitt Romneys and the John McCains and even both Bushes were sort of dragged into the issue, and they did just enough. Let's hear from Nick Sandman. I'm sorry, I do want to hear from Nick Sandman.
Before I begin, I'd like to thank President Trump for the opportunity to share some of my story and why it matters so much to this November's election. In 2019, I attended the March for Life in Washington, D.C., where I demonstrated in defense of the unborn. Later that day, I bought a Make America Great Again hat because our president, Donald Trump, has distinguished himself as one of the most pro-life presidents in the history of our country, and I wanted to express my support for him too. Looking back now, how could I possibly imagine that the simple act of putting on that red hat would unleash hate from the left and make myself the target of network and cable news networks nationwide? Being from Kentucky, the birthplace of Abraham Lincoln, my classmates and I visited the Lincoln Memorial. I found myself face to face with Nathan Phillips and other professional protesters looking to turn me into the latest poster child showing why Trump is bad, while the media portrayed me as an aggressor with a relentless smirk on my face. In reality, the video confirms I was standing with my hands behind my back and an awkward smile on my face that hid two thoughts. One, don't do anything that might further agitate the man banging a drum in my face. And two, I was trying to follow a family friend's advice, never to do anything to embarrass your family, your school, or your community. Before I knew what was happening, it was over. One of Mr. Phillips' fellow agitators yelled out, "We got him. It's all right here on video. And we won, Grandpa." What I thought was a strange encounter quickly developed into a major news story, complete with video footage. My life changed forever in that one moment. The full war machine of the mainstream media revved up into attack mode. They did so without researching the full video of the incident, without ever investigating Mr. Phillips' motives, or without ever asking me for my side of the story. And do you know why? Because the truth was not important. Advancing their anti-Christian, anti-conservative, anti-Donald Trump narrative was all that mattered. And if advancing their narrative ruined the reputation and future of a teenager from Covington, Kentucky, well, so be it. That would teach him not to wear a MAGA hat. I learned what was happening to me had a name. It was called being canceled, as in annulled, as in revoked, as in made void. Canceled is what's happening to people around this country who refuse to be silenced by the far left. Many are being fired, humiliated, or even threatened. And often, the media is a willing participant. But I would not be canceled. I fought back hard to expose the media for what they did to me, and I won a personal victory. While much more must be done, I look forward to the day that the media returns to providing balanced, responsible, and accountable news coverage. I know President Trump hopes for that too. And I know you'll agree with me when we say that no one in this country has been a victim of unfair media coverage more than President Donald Trump. In November, I believe this country must unite around a president who calls the media out and refuses to allow them to create a narrative instead of reporting the facts. I believe we must join a president who will challenge the media to return to objective journalism. And together, I believe we must all embrace our First Amendment rights and not hide in fear of the media or from the tech companies, or from the outrage mob either. This is worth fighting for. This is worth voting for. And this is what Donald Trump stands for. Thank you all for listening to me tonight. And one more thing. Let's make America great again.
Yeah, to coin a phrase from a past president, Chris DeGaulle, I have a sense that there are a lot of men and women around this country who watched little Nick Sandmann there and said, that could be my son.
You know, what happened to Nick Sandmann, Larry, as well as Brett Kavanaugh, as a man, personally as a man with sons, and I know you're a man with sons, and this is not exclusive to men, but they were uniquely two figures in the last couple of years that struck a chord with me, because I could so easily see either myself or my sons going through the same thing. And I heard that from men and women a lot. Those two people, those stories, the way those people, Justice Kavanaugh and Nick Sandmann in particular, were railroaded for absolutely nothing, no shred of evidence whatsoever. It was the first time that I really internalized, oh, well, that could happen to literally any one of us. They really personalized that in a way I don't think that's ever happened before.
One other thought on Abby Johnson, as we see Pam Bondi, the former Attorney General of Florida, speaking. I just want to finish the point I was making about, you got the sense from past Republican presidents that they did, what they said, what they had to say to win the nomination and say, yes, I'm pro-life, I'm anti-abortion, but that was about it. We just witnessed the most detailed, heart-wrenching, graphic, emotional, compelling condemnation of this evil procedure that we have ever seen. And abortion has been an issue for our party for 5 decades, Chris. And it took Donald Trump, the guy who we were told is not a real conservative, who isn't he doesn't really believe this stuff, but it's his convention that brought it out in a way that and laid it bare the way it's never been laid bare before. That was something else.
That was. The great Rush Limbaugh tells a wonderful story. You've probably heard him tell it over the years on his radio show, and I love it. When he was ascending in real popularity in the 90s, and was just explosively popular, even in New York City. He tells this great story of being called to a high-end, swanky party in the Hamptons with a lot of conservative business types and donors and whatnot. And a guy pulls Rush aside and says, we all love your show. We love you. But what are you going to do about these abortion people? And Rush says to the guy, well, what do you mean? What am I going to do about the abortion people? Well, you got to knock that off. You got to tone them down. You got to, and there has been obviously a wing of the Republican Party that just loathes social conservatives, loathes them, does not want to talk about this.
Oh, the Frums and the Brookses and even the Roves. Republicans will never be a majority party unless they they got to change their abortion policy. Otherwise, they'll never be. Well, it ain't happening this year, that's for sure. Chris DeGaulle, as usual, sir, I appreciate you joining us. We will look forward to your analysis tomorrow morning in the city of brotherly love, Philadelphia, on AM 990 The Answer, our Salem radio affiliate there, and we'll look forward to your columns at Town Hall. Thank you for joining us tonight on day 2. Hopefully we'll catch up with you tomorrow as well.
Happy to be with you, Larry, anytime. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you so much. Guys, let's go to Pam Bondi here while we get ready for Beth Bauman from Townhall Media to join us, and we'll hear what the former Attorney General of Florida has to say.
Joe Biden's close family member, who, you guessed it, had no experience in the industry and no experience in Iraq. A company official bragged that it helps to have a family member, the vice president, as partner. The family member put it more bluntly by saying there's a line of 747s filled with cash ready to invest. Now let's follow the money down south. Again, as reported in the press, yet another close family member of Joe's set his sights on Costa Rica and Jamaica, where millions of dollars flowed from the Obama-Biden administration in taxpayer-backed loans to projects linked to, yes, that same family member. These aren't isolated incidents. It is a deliberate pattern of conduct. And that's just what he did as vice president. Imagine what he'd do as president. How many American families would be allowed to get away with this? Why should there be one standard for the elite political class and another set of rules for the rest of us? When millions of Americans voted for Donald Trump, they knew he'd be different, and he is. He's a tough, no-nonsense outsider who can't be bought or intimidated. He won't even take a paycheck from the American people. He donates his paycheck to charities across this country. Democrats have been lecturing America about integrity for 4 years, while their nominee has been writing the textbook on abuse of power for 40 years. If they want to make this election a choice between who's saving America and who's swindling America, bring it on. Joe says he'll build back better. Yeah, build the Bidens back better. Our president is in this to build a safer, better, and stronger America, and he will finish what he started to keep this a real land of opportunity for everyone. If you want to check your voting status, secure your ballot, or register to vote, text VOTE to 88022. Remember, the best is yet to come.
And the best is right here, by the way, not yet to come. Where the best is happening right now at Townhall Media as we continue our live coverage here of day 2 of the Republican National Convention with this, our live stream presentation. I'm Larry O'Connor, senior columnist at Townhall. We also have our live blog going on at townhall.com. You should have that open in a tab while you watch the video. And one of the major participants is associate editor of Townhall, Beth Bauman, who joins us now from her bunker, where she is busy tweeting and writing and blogging. And we're halfway through tonight, Beth. What is the overall sense out there in social media? What seems to be trending, as the kids like to say? Oh, we got to get your mic on there, Beth. Make sure you're not muted.
I'm so
there you go.
No, when the liberals are triggered on social media, things are going pretty well. I would say this is definitely a lot less awkward than the DNC. I mean, there's a lot smoother of a transition, but there are issues that the Trump campaign and the RNC are really hammering that are just losers for the Dems. I mean, the biggest one is criminal justice reform. Dems have promised for decades, probably even before I was born, that we're going to get this done. We're going to get this done. And who got it done? Trump did. So I think it's very interesting to watch. And there's no way that Biden's campaign can spin that at all.
How did the Abby Johnson speech go over on social media? What was the reaction? Because it was riveting television. I thought watching that speech and hearing. I don't think most Americans have ever heard that sort of thing before about the abortion procedure.
I think you're pretty spot on with that. From what I've seen on Twitter, the quote that everybody keeps going to is, "Did you know abortion had a smell?" So she provides a really different angle to this topic. She provides a different narrative, one that's been missing from the conversation. And I mean, how do you? There's no way to refute that. I mean, it's anecdotal, and people like that. Not her particular story, but they like relatability and understanding. And she breaks it down to, this is what it smelled like, this is what it felt like. I mean, down to them talking about like replacing parts of the baby so that they made sure no piece was left behind. So it was very visual, and at a few points I had to mute it because it was graphic, and it bothered.
And following her presentation was Nicholas Sandmann, and I found it interesting. I'm reflecting on it a little bit, Beth Bauman, and it appears to me, nobody can go after the media like Donald Trump. Yeah, I mean, if he's got one skill set, it's to attack the media. Yeah. Instead, his proxy tonight was a teenage victim of their mania. And I think that was very cleverly done. And I think Nick Sandmann I thought he was quite poised.
Yeah, I mean, for being so young, he has done such a great job. He has a lot more patience, and patience is really the only word I can think of, because if I had someone screaming in my face the way he did, I don't think I would necessarily be able to sit there and just take it, you know? And so he's definitely mature beyond his years. And I feel really bad for him that this is kind of how he had to come into adulthood. I mean, you know, especially being at that weird teenage adult time in life where you're figuring out what you want to do. Now the whole country knows who you are and your political stance, whether or not you want to go into politics.
But, you know, Beth, we're told by all the experts who are never wrong about presidential elections, just look at 4 years ago, we're told that it's these suburban moms who will make the difference in the key states. Nick Sandmann is the child of those very suburban moms. They can look at Nick Sandmann and say, that could have been my kid.
It's really funny that you just mentioned this, because I was getting into it on Twitter with Amanda Carpenter about this very issue about 10 minutes ago. I am so tired of hearing everybody say, and these media experts say, this is how suburban women feel, this is how young women feel, this is the issue that, you know, gets millennials going. And they haven't learned anything from 2016. Polling is not reliable. There are so many different factors. I mean, look at how different things were just between March and now with the coronavirus. Things can change again in less than 90 days. And so, yeah, Nick Sandmann is a perfect example of who they're targeting. And what I want to know is, what suburban areas are you talking about? Are you talking about, you know, the outskirts of Chicago where people see, you know, looting, rioting, fighting going on? Is it in Flyover? I mean, look at what's going on in Kenosha. Is it in Orange County, California, where most people are conservative and want to keep their money and have lower taxes? So I don't get this whole suburban mom thing. I mean, it makes no sense.
Yeah. We're speaking with Beth Bauman. She is the associate editor at townhall.com, where she is participating with all of the smart folks over there at Townhall Media in our live blog that you can see that it is on and happening as we speak. You know what? Let's check in with. I'm reluctant to listen to the siblings throughout the evening, because what are they going to say about their dad, right? They're going to love that. Yeah. My dad has always been great to me, right? But this segment is about Trump's relationship with all of the women who populate his cabinet. And this is his youngest daughter, Tiffany Trump. Let's dip in here real fast and see what she has to say.
Where students with contrary opinions are too afraid to speak. Many students find themselves suppressing their beliefs to fit into what the acceptable groupthink is. In short, our nation suffers by inhibiting our diversity of thought and inclusion of ideas. Working together, outside of our political comfort zones, will accomplish so much more. Some cynical politicians do not seem to believe in the miracle of America. Well, I do. As Maximo Alvarez said so eloquently last night, if freedom is lost in this country, there is nowhere else to go. Having hope is not weakness, and believing in miracles is a gift from God. So tonight, I want to tell you the uncensored truth of what we believe in. We believe in equality of opportunity. We believe in freedom of thought and expression. Think what you want, seek out the truth, learn from those with different opinions, and then freely make your voice heard to the world. We believe in school choice, because a child's zip code in America should not determine their future. We believe in freedom of religion for all faiths, and we believe in the American spirit, a country founded on ideas, not identity, a country where our differences are embraced, and the only country where the word dream has been attached to it. Because in America, your life is yours to chart. So if you're hearing these things and thinking to yourself, that is the kind of country that I want to live in, well, whether you realize it or not, you are a Trump supporter. I encourage you, as so many other politicians employ. They mask themselves in disguises of decency as they try to pressure us to mask our own identities and beliefs. My father is the only person to challenge the establishment, the entrenched bureaucracy, big pharma, and media monopolies to ensure that Americans' constitutional freedoms are upheld and that justice and truth prevail. My father does not run away from challenges, even in the face of outright hatred, because fighting for America is something he will sacrifice anything for. He dreams big dreams for our country, and he is relentless at achieving them. You see, Make America Great Again is not a slogan for my father. It is what drives him to keep his promise of doing what is right for American citizens. The energy of change and opportunity is with us. God has blessed us with unstoppable spirit, his spirit, the American spirit. My dad has proven to be driven. He has demonstrated his faith and his uncompromising heart and actions. My father has made me believe that America can truly be great again. If you care about living your life without restraints, about rebelling against those who would suppress your voice and building your American dream, then the choice in this election is clear. A vote for my father, Donald J. Trump, is a vote to uphold our American ideals. Be true to yourself and stay true to the dream of America. Thank you, and God bless you all.
All right. Great. And a couple of things. First of all, Beth Baumann, on a very superficial level, my wife is already, I got to get that pantsuit for her. I guarantee you, Meredith loves that. And I was a fan of the lip gloss. Okay, setting aside the superficial aspect of it, here's 26-year-old Tiffany Trump delivering a message as a very young millennial or older Gen Z, right in that sweet spot there, saying, hey, you don't have to go with the herd. You can have your own voice. It's okay to vote for Donald Trump. Listen, I don't know. The youth vote is generally not a reliable vote, but anything you can do to chip away at it, it might resonate. What do you think?
I had a hard time focusing on what she was saying just because of her enunciation and talking kind of in waves and the head tilting. So, but apparently a lot of people on Twitter are really liking her and think she should be more visible.
Yeah.
Not my taste, but hey.
We haven't seen a lot of Tiffany Trump. We haven't. And I'll be, again, on a superficial, I was surprised that she has kind of a resonant baritone kind of voice. I wasn't expecting sort of that sort of presentation.
She sounds a lot like Ivanka.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess she does. I thought she handled herself well. I did. And listen, it's not easy to be thrown into the spotlight like she has.
No, I mean, she did a decent job. I just, it seemed like a speech that was written more for a firebrand like Don Jr., I mean.
Sure. Yeah, for sure. By the way, we should probably check in with Iowa. I know that people, what's the big deal of Iowa? Let's not forget, Iowa was a big win for Trump. Iowa went for Obama both in 2008 and in 2012. It's seen as sort of an important Midwestern state that suggests if Trump's got a good lead there and doing well there should be a ripple effect, maybe even all the way up into Wisconsin. Let's hear what Governor Reynolds has to say real fast.
That will help Iowans get back on their feet. The president, he cut through the bureaucracy to do what needed to be done and to do it quickly. But that's not the first time President Trump showed Iowans that we can rely on him. In 2019, when 100-year floods breached nearly every levee and devastated communities large and small along the Missouri River in Iowa, Nebraska, and Missouri, the President approved our request for aid in record time, in just 2 days. Well, this year, he did it in less than 24 hours. So whether it's providing needed relief to farmers who were the target of China's unfair trade practices, hammering out new free and fair trade deals, or fighting for workers and small businesses who were hit hard by COVID-19, we have a president and a vice president who get things done. And because of President Trump and his leadership, our country is able to bounce back from setbacks and see opportunity grow and thrive. This is an administration of action and outcomes. They are delivering every day on their promise to make America great again. And that's exactly why we need to re-elect President Donald J. Trump in November. Thank you, and may God bless the United States of America.
Beth, I don't know about you. I'm getting it's again a very polished presentation tonight, and they're doing it. I'll repeat it. I'm not used to Republicans putting on a good show. Usually they suck at this.
No, yeah, I 100% agree with you. I was slightly dreading this but they've done a good job. They actually really have.
But tonight, compared to last night, tonight in terms of the speakers and the presentation feels much more like a traditional convention night. You know, like that speech from the governor of Iowa. It's like, you know, they got to give a moment to prominent Republicans from important states, and they say sort of bromides and things, and it's more convention-y than last night. I don't mean it as a criticism. It just is what it is.
No, and I agree. And I think that's why I liked last night so much more, is it was a lot more informal feeling, which is really the Trump style. I mean, he's not traditional in any sense of the imagination. So yeah, this is definitely more traditional and probably a little bit more boring.
We are, I didn't want to use that word. We are watching a video. It looks like it's narrated by Vice President Mike Pence. It showed the origins of the Republican Party all the way back to Abraham Lincoln, of course, the founder of the party, and connecting the dots all the way to President Trump. Take that, Lincoln Project. We'll see how they react to it. Let's look forward here, Beth Baumann, in the last sort of 5 or 10 minutes that we've got with you before we bring on that maniac Kurt Schlichter. The big name still to come here will be Jeanette Nunez, the first Hispanic female lieutenant governor in the state of Florida, who was part of the COVID-19 response in that state, and she's to be speaking about that. How Florida responded. Eric Trump will be speaking. Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron, she's going to be it appears he's going to speak possibly about the Breonna Taylor situation in Louisville. That could be interesting. And then Secretary of State Mike Pompeo from Israel and First Lady Melania Trump. Who are you most looking forward to? What are you expecting in this final hour of the convention?
Well, the one I was looking forward to the most was Nick Sandmann, who already came on, just because I was curious to see what he had to say. But I'm curious to see what Eric Trump is going to say. Don Jr. definitely is the most prominent front and center, where Eric Trump is just a little bit more refined, for lack of a better term. He's visible, but not to the level of Don Jr. So I'm really curious to see what he's going to say and what point of view he's going to bring from the family perspective.
Mm-hmm. I'm personally looking forward to Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. The fact that he is going to be speaking from the city of David in Israel, I think, sends. Listen, the support of Israel has always been an important part of the Republican Party and across a broad coalition, not just for national security purposes, but also for, frankly, a lot of faith-based voters who support the state of Israel. The fact that he is there and focusing on two incredible achievements of this administration, moving the embassy to Jerusalem, which everyone promised to do and never did, and then this recent peace agreement with the United Arab Emirates, which is historic as well. Trump's foreign policy is overlooked quite a bit in the media, even the friendly media. And I think that that could be an important speech.
Definitely. And it shows a contrast to what the Democrats have, especially when you have very visible voices like Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar, who have this very anti-Semitic background. It is very a very big contrast and very important, I think, more so to older generations. I think my generation is really ignorant with a lot of the atrocities that have happened. You know, everybody says, don't forget the Holocaust and things, but it seems like people are forgetting their history or just don't know it. So I think that's a really, really huge symbolism. And, you know, we need to remember why Israel is important to us. They have the same Western values as us of freedom and liberty. And, you know, it's very symbolic. And,
well,
I hope other people pick up on that, especially people my age, you know?
Yeah, and let's not forget, in terms of the very real binary choice here between Trump and Biden. Biden is running on his record, on his experience. Let's not forget, Joe Biden was brought into the Obama ticket in 2008 because of his foreign policy experience. But Biden wasn't able, as vice president, to help secure a peace deal in the Middle East. In fact, under him and Biden and Obama, we saw ISIS, you know, run rampant across the Middle East and threaten our ally Israel. Biden, he was there for 8 years and he couldn't convince Barack Obama to move the embassy to Jerusalem.
It's hilarious that he's running on the so-called record when what has he done in 40 plus years? I mean, what record is he running on? I mean, you know, okay, people call him out on the 94 crime bill. Suddenly he wasn't there, but, you know, I mean, what is he running on? Oh, the, you know, Violence Against Women's Act. Okay. I mean, they're going to keep saying this and they make it sound like his 40 plus years in politics have been a good thing. And he is literally everything that Trump is not. You know, he is what Trump ran against. And we're seeing it even in primaries. People are choosing the outsiders. They're tired of politics as usual. And I think that's why even progressives in the Democratic Party are just so disgusted by the fact that, you know, we have this old white dude who they accuse the Republicans of always picking, who has been in politics for years, and then the so-called progressive prosecutor who hasn't even really done anything except lock up the black people who she's supposedly for. So it's a nightmare. And really, from a PR and comms background, which is what I went to school for, it's a terrible strategy. Terrible.
Well, the fact that Pompeo, the Secretary of State, and by the way, not only will he be speaking there, but let's face it, last night's presentation from Nikki Haley, the former ambassador to the United Nations, the presentation from Senator Tim Scott, and tonight's presentation from Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, tomorrow's presentations from Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, as well as Vice President Pence. These are auditions for 2024. All of those people are running for president in 2024. And so that's a big storyline underneath the Secretary of State's speech. This is his first big presentation to the American people as a national figure and a statesman.
Absolutely. And I am really surprised that I haven't seen Ted Cruz on the lineup. That's the one that really surprises me. Especially seeing as we've seen a lot of Trump's, you know, fiercest allies like Jim Jordan. I'm probably sure Meadows would have done it if he wasn't chief of staff. You know, Rand Paul was here. We don't see Ted Cruz, and Ted Cruz has really gone to bat for him. And like you said, it is kind of like a mini audition. But Tim Scott did an awesome job. And I think a lot of people saw him in a very different light, not just as this quiet senator who kind of commands respect when he enters the room, but now more of this, wow, we could really see him doing something bigger than what he has done.
Yeah, that is a good point. And I'm trying to do a perfunctory search here to see if Ted Cruz is. I don't see Ted Cruz on the list as of now for tomorrow or for Thursday. That's noteworthy. That is definitely noteworthy, and probably worth a column from you, Beth Bauman. Get writing. That'll be a great column. Where's Ted Cruz? Let's hear it.
Yeah, where is Ted? Yeah.
All right. All right, Beth, thank you so much for joining us. Get back to the live blog. Great stuff. And thank you for all the hard work that you and everyone's doing over at townhall.com tonight for our coverage. And keep up the great work. You bet. Let's dip in now and see what this police, again, law and order, a big part of tonight's speech. And I'm guessing since this is a police officer from Albuquerque, it might have something to do with sanctuary policies as well. Let's jump in here.
She knew that she was harming her baby by doing drugs. She crumbled and burst into tears. Two worlds collided as I knelt down beside her. A police officer and a homeless drug addict, brought together by forces outside of our control. As we talked, our humanity, distinct from our stations in life, was made abundantly clear. Her name was Crystal, and in the midst of her suffering, she confided that she loved her unborn baby. She wanted the best for her child. In that moment, I saw her the way that all of you who know and love an addict see them, as fathers, mothers, brothers, sisters, children, cousins, and friends, as human beings, full of value and dignity, but robbed of their potential by this disease. When Crystal said that she was looking for a family to adopt her baby, God showed me exactly what I had to do. Without hesitation, I told her that my family would welcome her baby through adoption. Today, our beautiful daughter Hope is a thriving 2-year-old. Crystal is fast approaching 3 years of recovery. She is a dear friend and a constant inspiration to me and others. I hold a special place in my heart for those facing opioid addiction, and that's why I'm enormously grateful to the President for his leadership in fighting this deadly enemy. Through his efforts, we're turning the tide on the crisis of addiction. President Trump declared the opioid crisis to be a public health emergency and then secured $6 billion in new federal funding to help Americans fight opioid abuse. He invested an additional $100 million to stop the opioid crisis in rural America. And in a move that strikes at the root of the problem, he implemented a safer prescribing plan aimed at reducing opioid prescriptions by over a third within 3 years. This is an effort that stops addiction before it ever gains a hold in someone's life. And it's having an impact. Drug overdose deaths decreased in 2018 for the first time in 30 years. Many of the states hardest hit by the opioid crisis are seeing the largest drop in deaths. We're seeing that doctors are writing fewer prescriptions for opioid pain drugs. These are significant improvements that have a meaningful impact. I think we are fortunate, America, to have a president who cares deeply for the downtrodden and who works tirelessly to find solutions. A president who doesn't just talk about problems, but stops and helps. President Trump is the leader we've needed the last 4 years, and he is the leader we need for the next 4. You see, Donald Trump is the right president at the right time. Let's make sure he's reelected on November 3rd. I pray God's blessings on you and your family, and may God bless America.
Well, that's a very important speech for a lot of reasons. Let's see who this is real fast. Is this Lieutenant? This is Lieutenant Governor of Florida. Let's just jump in real fast here and see what she has to say.
Share my story of faith, family, and American freedom. As the daughter of Cuban immigrants, my story began in 1959, before I was born, when my parents' dreams of a prosperous life became a nightmare. Chaos spread quickly when Fidel Castro took control of Cuba. The government confiscated private property, stealing people's homes, farms, and businesses. For my parents, the difficult decision to flee communist Cuba came when the Castro regime abolished religious freedom. Fellow Americans, the fabric of our nation is in peril. Daily, the radical left systematically chisels away at the freedoms we cherish. They peddle dangerous ideologies, cower to global progressives, and normalize socialism to dismantle our Constitution. Let me assure you, socialism doesn't offer opportunity. Socialism deprives. It is a falsehood that feigns promises for its masses and consistently yields only misery. President Ronald Reagan warned, if we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. Truer words have never been spoken.
All
Americans
right,
have a
Lieutenant Governor
choice.
Jeanette
We can go down a
Nunez
dark road
of the state of
chaos
Florida, a very important state, of course, in the electoral map. And there's no better advocates on behalf of freedom and liberty and free market economic principles, contrary to the socialist movement of the Democratic Party, than a refugee from a communist state like Cuba. And if you think the Cuban vote in Florida is not important, you're not. Well, you don't think that. You're way too smart. You read townhall.com. That's going to be an important vote, as always, to shore up. And honestly, Donald Trump just needs to go down to the Sunshine State and say in Little Havana in Miami, Joe Biden and Barack Obama made nice with Fidel Castro, and he'll do it again if you vote for him. And I think he'll lock up that state. Joining us right now, senior columnist and bon vivant out of the West Coast, the state of California, run by Democrats, one warrior, Kurt Schlichter, joins us now for our final hour of coverage here at Townhall Media. If you're just joining us, thank you for being here. I'm Larry O'Connor. There's Kurt Schlichter, and we're going to bring you the final hour here of day 2 of the Republican National Convention. Have you been watching this, Kurt? It's California, so, you know, I understand if you were watching something else. Oh, you're muted, big guy. Go ahead and turn that mute off, and then we'll all be able to.
There we go. You got me?
There you go.
You got the K?
You got it.
All
You're
right.
good.
Yes, I've been watching it, and I don't think the fireworks are as big as yesterday, Larry, but I think this is a solid show. I have not been bored. I have not been annoyed, mostly because Fox hasn't broken out. So, well, there's Vaughn Williams talking, so I broke that streak.
Well, at least it's not Donna Brazil. Yeah. I'd love to. A couple of things I want to bounce off of you. As things were going on, I was making notes. I was like, I want to get Kurt Schlichter's impression of this. Donald Trump would love to go out there and spend half an hour just attacking the media, and no one does it better. How deft was it that instead of attacking the media personally, or even sending some other politician to attack, instead of sending Kurt Schlichter out there to attack the media, he put forth a teenage kid who was a victim of their lies and let him make the argument. I found that to be brilliant.
I thought it was terrific. I thought that kid had a lot of dignity. I loved him throwing the hat on at the end. I might have gone with "suck it, bitches," but I got a little different vibe than he does.
Well, that was the sub.
So
that was between the lines. It was.
But the thing is, Americans are watching this, and apparently lots of them are watching it, or at least significantly more than the Democrats. At least that's what the numbers seem to be. And I think a lot of them are going to identify with Nick Sandmann. I think a lot of people are going, that could have been my kid. All he's doing is wearing a hat, especially when you have those ass wipes in not very far from where you and I used to hang out in D.C., running around hassling diners, demanding that they show solidarity with that commie garbage organization known as BLM.
Hold on, this looks pretty cool. Let's take a look at the president walking through the White House and having the Marines salute him.
They're under arms. They can salute inside. Okay. See, get my little military thing going.
Yeah. Oh, I see. Army. Yeah. Where's my Navy?
Acting Secretary Wolf, I present to you five candidates for naturalization representing 5 countries.
On behalf of everyone here today, I'd like to express my gratitude to you, Mr. President, for hosting this naturalization ceremony.
Oh my God, this is
here at the White House. To our candidates, it is my honor to administer the oath of allegiance and welcome you as our fellow citizens. Candidates for naturalization, please raise your right hand.
Oh, this is great. This is great. All right, let's talk about this because so what he's doing is They are doing a swearing in of new citizens in the White House with the president overseeing it. Legal immigrants to this country. How, I mean,
to any foreign prince, potentate,
or potentate,
state or sovereignty.
I love that potentate. It reminds me of my own potency.
I have heretofore been a subject or citizen. That I will support and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States of America. Against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same. That I will bear arms.
Take that, Illinois.
On behalf of the United States.
I was just going to ask, do you think Ilhan Omar could take this oath with a straight face?
Non-combatant service.
All I can say is, oh, brother.
In the armed forces of the U.S. When required by law. That I will perform work.
Man, this is long.
Of national importance.
Man, I got even more respect for them. They go this long.
When required by law. And that I take this obligation freely. Without any mental reservation. Or purpose of evasion. So help me God.
Oh, that's a disqualifier, Illinois Omar. He's started.
There you go. How cool is that right there in the White House? Legal immigrants, legal citizens. All right, Kurt, we got to talk about this because I happen to have this book right here in front of me. It's called The 21 Biggest Lies About Donald Trump and You. It's by Kurt Schlichter. I keep it here all the time. Chapter 8 of the 21 Lies is Trump hates immigrants, and you hate them too. Yeah, I gotta love that President Trump is just going. He's hitting everything head on. Everything they say about him, he's saying, "Screw you. This is the reality."
Yeah, he's about as subtle as a sledgehammer, and that's what we need to break through this wall of media lies.
Yeah. Do we want to hear let's listen to the president's remarks.
Greatest nation.
We always want to hear the president.
Congratulations. Great going. You followed the rules, you obeyed the laws, you learned your history, embraced our values, and proved yourselves to be men and women of the highest integrity. It's not so easy. You went through a lot, and we appreciate you being here with us today. You've earned the most prized, treasured, cherished, and priceless possession anywhere in the world. It's called American citizenship. There's no higher honor and no greater privilege. And it's an honor for me to be your president. Thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to recognize the 5 new citizens who join us today. Robert Martin Ramirez Alcazar is from Bolivia and has been a lawful permanent resident of the United States since 2013.
Love this.
Robert? Hi, Robert. He and his wife are raising 3 beautiful children. In 2017, Robert achieved the dream of starting his own business, a construction company that now employs 5 workers. Robert says, I love this country. I want to respect the law. America has helped me so much in life. Robert, thank you very much for your devotion.
Thank you for the opportunities to the United States.
Well, thank you, and good luck with that company. Soon you'll have hundreds of employees, I think, right?
It will.
Could happen. It will. Rima Gideon is from Lebanon and is the proud mother of 3 children. Rima speaks English, Arabic, and French, and earned a degree in psychology. In other words, she can figure me out. She now works as a daycare teacher in Virginia. Rima says, I feel blessed to be a loyal citizen of the greatest country in the world, a country that has given me the opportunity of a lifetime to realize my potential and my dreams.
I'm not seeing many people who are going to kneel there, Larry.
Yeah.
That's very good. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Sudha Sundari Narayan is a phenomenal success, born in India, came to the United States 13 years ago. Sudha is a talented software developer, and she and her husband are raising two beautiful, wonderful children, the apples of your life, right? Yes, they are. Well, thank you very much, and congratulations. Fantastic job. Thank you. Nehmet Abdelzim Awal-Said is from Sudan, and that's a beautiful name. And has been a lawful permanent resident since 2012. She is the married mother of three beautiful children, earned a master's degree and PhD in animal nutrition from the University of Wyoming, great place, great state. And she is a trained veterinarian.
Animal
She's
nutrition,
also worked
yeah.
as a substitute teacher
Keto.
for the Alexandria Public School since 2004.
Hey, man, I watch Yellowstone. That stuff's important.
Much, and congratulations.
Cows are a burden.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Salah Abdul Samad has been looking forward to this day since he arrived in the United States from Ghana in 2015. Salih speaks 5 languages and works the medical field. Salih says that the American citizenship means everything to me in my life. It cannot be measured or quantified. I have the chance to work hard and succeed in life, to know that I am in the safe country like America. That really is something, because I know they have my back. Salih, thank you very much. Congratulations. Fantastic job. Congratulations to everybody. With the rights and freedoms each of you now enjoys as citizens, there is no dream beyond your wildest reach, because Americans can do anything. Today, you have also accepted the profound duties and responsibilities that come with American citizenship. By swearing the oath of allegiance, each of you has entered a sacred and unbreakable covenant with our nation. You have pledged your
happy folks.
Undying loyalty to the American people, the American Constitution, and the American way of life. The history and heritage of the United States are now yours to preserve and pass down to the next generation. Our culture, our traditions, and our values are now yours to uphold and live by. The rights so dear to every American, granted by us and granted by God, and enshrined in our glorious Bill of Rights,
Democrats,
are now yours to
support, Moloch-worshipping bastards,
and defend. As citizens, you're now stewards of this magnificent nation.
Hey, we got to talk about Abby Johnson. Speaking
of every race, color, religion, and
we
creed.
Absolutely will.
United by the bonds of love, we are one people, sharing one home, saluting one great American flag. Congratulations again to all of you. May God bless you, and may God bless our great country.
All right, so there you go. President Trump co-officiating the swearing in of 5 legal citizens into this country. Later on tonight, he's going to be assisting.
Brilliant. Just genius.
Later on, he will be assisting Ben Carson in open heart surgery. Actually, they're throwing it all out there tonight. It's like that was great.
Hey, have you noticed that Eric has borrowed Don Jr.'s tie? That's the same tie.
Beard.
I know, because I have one.
And beard. Should we?
He looks
check in
he looks like Don Johnson if Don Johnson was from New York.
I've been hot and cold on this. I thank you. I know that. I've been hot and cold on all of the children, because obviously they love their dad. They're going to say great things about their dad. Although you know what's interesting
Tiffany
about
was
having
fine.
Tiffany was fine. I know. I'm just talking about the political.
Look, this thing is.
I'm questioning the political value. What voter is thinking? Oh well, if his daughter likes it,
I think showing that the family aren't a bunch of mendacious monsters like the media makes it has some value.
Well, and also in contrast, I mean, I'd put any of these kids up against Hunter Biden's record. I think that's fair to say.
Well, not in a rail huffing contest.
Let's check in on Eric Trump and see what he has to say here.
I mean, my gosh, these guys can't measure
never
up.
More than one generation away from extinction. It must be fought for, and it must be protected. This is the fight that we are in right now, and it is a fight that only my father can win. My father ran not because he needed the job, but because he knew hardworking people across this great country were being left behind. The media mocked these patriots in the flyover states in which they lived. They ignored the Trump flags. They ignored the millions of MAGA banners and barns painted in red, white, and blue. The silent majority had no one fighting for them in either party. Their so-called leaders were bowing to China, bribing Iran, and spending more time worrying about how they'd be received by the elites in Paris than how Americans would provide for their families in Pittsburgh. Our family lost friends, but it only pushed us to fight harder. My father pledged to every American in every city, state, and town that he was going to make America great again. And so began the Great American Comeback. Almost immediately, taxes were slashed, regulations were cut, and the economy soared to new heights, heights never seen before. Wages went through the roof. Unemployment reached historic lows, especially for Black Americans, Hispanic Americans, and women. Trade deals were ripped up and renegotiated. Lights were turned back on in abandoned factories across our country. Trillions of dollars were repatriated back to the United States.
These are very well written little speeches.
Too long. Once again, America became the envy of the world. And with that renewed strength came leverage. The president demanded that our allies pay their fair share for the defense of the Western world. My father rebuilt the mighty American military, adding new jets, aircraft carriers. He increased wages for our incredible men and women in uniform. He expanded our military defense budget to $721 billion per year. America was no longer.
I know, they're doing it again.
The moment President Trump ordered special forces to kill some of the deadliest terrorists on the planet,
Democrats?
the day the mighty Moab was dropped on insurgent camps is the day America took a stance to never be defeated by the enemy. Al-Baghdadi, Soleimani, dead. Over and over, issue after issue, the economy, the wall, the military, trade deals, tax cuts, Supreme Court justices, VA hospitals, prescription drugs, school choice, right to try, moving the embassy to Jerusalem, peace in the Middle East. Never-ending wars were finally ended. Promises made and promises for the first time were kept. Most politicians spend their entire careers in Washington.
Dude's got a point.
Absolutely nothing.
No, it is great, and he's speaking from this perspective. Let's dip down here.
Joe Biden is a politician.
Oh well, he is going to go after Biden. That's good. He's speaking from the perspective of my dad was a businessman. He never expected to get into this. He didn't need the job. He got in there, and he's gotten more done than Biden did in 50 years. It's such a compelling argument, an important one, and he's making it well. I want to ask you though, Kurt Schlichter. You, of course, a 27-year veteran of the United States Army. 27? Did I get that right?
Yeah,
retired full bird colonel. There's been this trend over the last two nights. This is not your father's Republican Party. This is not our Republican Party from 15 years ago. The Romney, Bush, McCain party is very different now. Yesterday we had one of the speakers, I can't remember, citing that President Trump is the first president in decades who did not start a war. Tonight we had Rand Paul extolling the virtue. Rand Paul stole a line from Barack Obama. Let's not spend our money building Afghanistan's roads. Let's spend the money building America's roads. I mean, it's still a little jarring for me to hear this, honestly, because it's a real shift for our party.
It is. And look, I was as hawkish as I could be. I mean, I was in the military. I deployed under both Bushes. Okay. So, I mean, I've gone and done stuff. And but the simple fact is, it's very clear that the strategic vision of the foreign policy establishment, which was bipartisan in many ways, was completely nearsighted. Completely inept, incompetently conceived, incompetently executed. I mean, it's just terrible. It was terrible. It led to terrible results. It was built on wishes and greed, and we just and the people who were making the decisions, the Romneys, were not the people who were sending their kids off to do the fighting. Okay, how many kids does Mitt Romney have? 63. How many of them showed up in the military? Now, most people can't actually be in the military. You from your own family, you know how hard it is to qualify. But there is a disconnect there. There is a disconnect between, and it's not that what I find a tiresome chicken argument. I think it's a bad argument. But there is a disconnect between the leaders who were deciding on wars and the people who got called up to fight them. And that was unsustainable, as was allies that refused to carry their weight, like Germany, as were getting into conflicts in places where we had no conceivable interest. And I think the Republican Party just said, wait a minute, we're done. We're done. And it took a long time for folks to figure it out. Guys like McCain and Mitt Romney, they've never figured it out.
Well, when you say the Republican Party said that, I mean, you mean Republicans? You mean the voters, the people who
I think we took the party. I think the base took the party back in 2016, and I think the people who thought they were in charge have found that they are not. So if you want to look where the Republican Party is, you have to look where Donald Trump is. He's running around at 96% approval rate. It's insane. And the old Republican, the nice thing is we have adapted. We've adapted to changes. We realize that globalism has costs that we were not addressing. So now we're addressing them. Military, being hawkish has costs. Now we're addressing them and being more selective. So I think it's a very important change.
Is it a phenomenon?
He really has been a change.
Is it a Trump phenomenon, or is this where the party is now moving forward? Do you think?
I think it is. I think it is. Well, unless we're dumb enough to elect a Nikki Haley, who still harkens back. There are a lot of guys in power who grew up thinking old way, and we're just going to have to clear them out. It's going to take time. But I think there are a lot of people who are really comfortable with getting into wars without really thinking it through. Look, and again, I'm no pacifist. I consider myself a hawk. I'm willing to kill any damn foreigner who gives us a good reason to. But what's a good reason? Because when you start a fight, that means you're bringing people home in boxes. And the test I always use, Larry, is would I be willing to go make the death notification to an E4 paratrooper's mom in Omaha and say your son died for X, and be able to do it with a straight face? And if I can't, then I say we don't get in the war.
So it's I guess to try to sum it up, it's what we're witnessing here from this sort of new messaging from President Trump about the use of our military and unpopular foreign wars, I guess is the way that it's described, is they're putting the Defense Department back in the business of defense.
Well, I think it's a little more subtle than that. I talk about it in detail in my fabulous book, The 21 Biggest Lies About Donald Trump and You. It's Jacksonianism, which is, look, we are a warrior people, but you don't get into a war unless you have a really good reason to, and when you do, you win it. And none of those were principles that the foreign policy establishment embraces.
Right.
I mean, we've been in Afghanistan for 20 freaking years.
Yeah, I will tell you, Bill Kristol was not thrilled with Rand Paul's remarks tonight. That goes without saying. It's not Bill Kristol's party.
Yeah, but
anymore.
Well, I bet he's checking his phone contacts to see if he's got Jerry Falwell Jr.'s number somewhere in there.
And by the way, this also, I'm going to look beyond that. This also brings even more attention to Secretary of State Mike Pompeo's remarks. Graduated first in his class at West Point, served in the, I think
we won't hold that against him.
No, he was armored. He was armored. All right, Congressman and Director of the CIA, now Secretary of State. He certainly came of age in the military in that mindset, right? And now,
no, he was 1 year ahead of me. He's 1 year group ahead. He was 86. I was 87 or 88. I was 80.
Let's check in with the Attorney General of Kentucky, shall we, Daniel Cameron, and see what he has to say.
The president believed in compassion, self-reliance, freedom, equality, and justice. Sadly, there are some who don't believe in this wisdom or in the better angels of our shared American history as they tear down the statues of people like Ulysses S. Grant, Frederick Douglass, and even Mr. Lincoln himself. Lincoln said, "Any nation that does not honor its heroes will not long endure." And for Republicans, our heroes are those who propelled an imperfect nation ever forward, always striving to make life better for everyone. Even as anarchists mindlessly tear up American cities while attacking police and innocent bystanders.
Love it.
We Republicans do recognize those who work in good faith towards peace, justice, and equality. In fact, it was General Dwight Eisenhower, a future Republican president, who said, "Democracy is a system that recognizes the equality of humans before the law." Whether you are the family of Breonna Taylor or David Dorn, these are the ideals that will heal our nation's wounds. Republicans will never turn a blind eye to unjust acts, but neither will we accept an all-out assault on Western civilization. My values were shaped by my faith and by my parents. I worked at their small coffee shop, meeting people from all walks of life. And I realized something. No matter who we are, everyone needs a cup of coffee. That lesson stuck with me because despite our differences, we all want the same things. For our children to have more opportunities than we did, to feel the dignity of work, and to believe that if you play by the rules, you can make a good life for yourself and your family. So the question is, will we choose the path that gives us the best chance to meet those universal desires? Or will we go backward to a time when people were treated like political commodities who can't be trusted to think for themselves? I think often about my ancestors who struggled for freedom. And as I think of those giants and their broad shoulders, I also think about Joe Biden, who says, "If you aren't voting for me, you ain't black," who argued that Republicans would put us back in chains, who says there is no diversity of thought in the black community. Mr. Vice President, look at me. I am black. We are not all the same, sir. I am not in chains. My mind is my own. And you can't tell me how to vote because of the color of my skin. Joe Biden is a backwards thinker in a world that is craving forward-looking leadership. There's no wisdom in his record or plan, just a trail of discredited ideas and offensive statements. Joe Biden would destroy jobs, raise our taxes, and throw away the lives of countless unborn children. And he is captive to the radical left, a movement committed to cancel culture and the destruction of public discourse. They believe your skin color must dictate your politics. And if you fail to conform while exercising your God-given right to speak and think freely, they will cut you down. The politics of identity, cancellation, and mob rule are not acceptable to me. Republicans trust you to think for yourself and to pursue your American dream however you see fit. Mr. Lincoln said the dogmas of the quiet past are inadequate to the stormy present. The occasion is piled high with difficulty, and we must rise to the occasion. I believe Donald Trump can meet Lincoln's mandate. even as Joe Biden remains trapped by his own failed record and by the radicals who dominate his party. Let's be honest. No one is excited about Joe Biden.
I think I love this
so
man.
I ask you to judge the record.
Right.
On criminal
I want him to
justice
marry
reform,
my daughter.
Joe Biden couldn't do it. But President Trump.
I want him to marry me. I'm sorry, honey. He's that good.
Couldn't do it. But President
She's over there.
Trump
What?
did build an economy that worked for everyone.
Jerry Falwell Jr.
minorities,
says, I want him
and
to,
he will
never
do
mind.
it again.
No.
Joe Biden promises more to illegal
You're now
immigrants
becoming Kurt.
than he does to you.
I'm a terrible influence on
But
you.
President Trump believes his highest duty is to the American worker. The choice is clear. Let me close with something my mom told me. This country's many faces comprise a family, not separate parts to be divided against each other. And like any family, we care for one another. We grieve together. We share our burdens and our struggles, and we celebrate our successes. And though we fuss and fight, we are not enemies. We are Americans, united by a collective faith in our Constitution and laws and the fundamental fairness they represent. We are defenders of life and of individual liberty, and we carry the mantle of Eisenhower and of Reagan to be a force for good in this world, and one that must always be reckoned with. That's my Republican Party, the party of Lincoln, that believes America is an indispensable nation, an evergreen tree, standing tall in a turbulent world. And that's why I am voting for Donald Trump for president. Thank you, and God bless.
Oh, man.
And God bless.
End it now. That's the end.
Another
Don't go any
killer.
further. Just finish the whole
No, we got
convention right
Pompeo.
now. Yeah. Oh, and here you are. All right, let's go right to Pompeo. Here we go, live from
Over
Israel.
the old city. I have a big job as Susan's husband and Nick's dad. Susan and Nick are more safe, and their freedom's more secure because President Trump has put his America First vision into action. It may not have made him popular in every foreign capital, but it's worked. President Trump understands what my great fellow Kansan President
Popular
Eisenhower
there.
said. For all that we cherish and justly desire for ourselves or for our children, the securing of peace is the first requisite. Indeed, the primary constitutional function of the national government is ensuring that your family and mine are safe and enjoy the freedom to live, to work, to learn, and to worship as they choose. Delivering on this duty to keep us safe and our freedoms intact, this president has led bold initiatives in nearly every corner of the world. In China, he's pulled back the curtain on the predatory aggression of the Chinese Communist Party. The president has held China accountable for covering up the China virus and allowing it to spread death and economic destruction in America and around the world. And he will not rest until justice is done. He has ensured that the Chinese Communist Party spies posing as diplomats in America are jailed or sent back to China. And he has ended the ridiculously unfair trade arrangement with China that punched a hole in our economy. Those jobs are coming back home. In North Korea, the president lowered the temperature and against all odds got the North Korean leadership to the table. No nuclear tests, no long-range missile tests, and Americans held captive in North Korea came home to their families, as did the precious remains of scores of heroes who fought in Korea. Today, because of President Trump, NATO is stronger, Ukraine has defensive weapon systems, and America left a harmful treaty so our nation can now build missiles to deter Russian aggression. And in the Middle East, when Iran threatened, the president approved a strike that killed the Iranian terrorist Qasem Soleimani. This is the man most responsible for the murder and maiming of hundreds of American soldiers and thousands of Christians across the Middle East. And you'll recall too, that when the president took office, radical Islamic terrorists had beheaded Americans, and ISIS controlled a territory in the size of Great Britain. Today, because of the president's determination and leadership, the ISIS caliphate is wiped out. It's gone. Its evil leader, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, is dead. And our brave soldiers, they're on their way home. The president exited the U.S. from the disastrous nuclear deal with Iran and squeezed the Ayatollah, Hezbollah, and Hamas. The president, too, moved the U.S. Embassy to this very city of God, Jerusalem, the rightful capital of the Jewish homeland. And just 2 weeks ago, the president brokered a historic peace deal between Israel and the United Arab Emirates. This is a deal that our grandchildren will read about in their history books. You know, as a soldier, I saw firsthand people desperate to flee to freedom. The way each of us can best ensure our freedoms is by electing leaders who don't just talk, but who deliver. An American hostage, imprisoned in Turkey for 2 years, Pastor Andrew Brunson, said upon his release that he survived his ordeal with these words of Scripture: "Be faithful, endure, and finish well. If we stay the course, we will." May God richly bless you, and may God bless our great nation, the United States of America.
All right, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo from
nicely done
Israel, and now we're in the Rose Garden. So First Lady Melania Trump will be speaking any second now as well, walking through the portico.
That's basically Nuremberg reborn. I've been told by smart people on Twitter.
That was a good,
least Nazi-looking garden I've ever seen, but.
It was a great litany of the foreign policy accomplishments. Yep. I didn't think he was served well by the remote location. It wasn't a good angle. It wasn't good lighting. He's a much more forceful presence, Secretary of State Pompeo, than
I've seen him speak, and he's a good speaker. I thought it was good to have him in Israel. I thought that was nice, and that I think that's a message to voters for whom Israel is very important, and there are a lot of us who it's very important to.
Great imagery for sure. And by the way, here comes the president. I think maybe he will introduce his wife, the First Lady. By the way, anyone who's worried about social distancing, every person who goes to the White House is tested twice. So there's no need for social distancing. Everyone there is negative from the virus. But what are you going to do? People will be going nuts. By the way, it struck me when the Attorney General of Kentucky, Daniel Cameron, was speaking there and going after Joe Biden and saying, you know, don't you wonder what CNN audiences were thinking there? Anyone who watches CNN is like, what the hell is happening right now?
I think the CNN folk, I said yesterday, I think the Democrats are crapping themselves. I do. Yeah. I think, I don't know what the hell to do.
Do you want to watch the hype video here of the First Lady? Do you want to watch the... Sure, let's watch them hype up the First Lady.
Lots worse things to watch.
To help children dream big, think big, and do all they can.
I don't know. We could watch Rachel Maddow.
This is her showcasing what she.
Yeah, there's a that would be kind of the other poll.
Independent, and I think people have underestimated.
You know, that would be
First Lady was amazing. She was gracious, empathetic, and showed
Maddow's over here, and
First Lady
Melania's over here.
Stepping out
onto the world
stage.
Her bee-based campaign is now going international.
She has the advantage of speaking several languages. She can be a diplomat for our country.
The sun was shining. She was greeted by children. This, of course, is her continuing to work on her Be Best campaign by shining a spotlight on successful programs that teach children tools and skills.
She represents our country with enormous warmth and elegance and grace.
Throughout history, women have made lasting impacts on society, and these women represent the strength of the female spirit. As First Lady of the United States, I'm proud of what this country continues to do for women. We as women must continue using our great tool of empowerment, our voices.
It was a very important moment for Melania Trump. This was a really prominent week for her.
The iconic White House Rose Garden has been renovated for the first time in 60 years.
When the history books are written, there should be a special chapter reserved for our First Lady.
She is an incredible First Lady. An amazing mother, an incredible woman, First Lady Melania Trump.
Yeah, I think she's done a good job. And of course, they all hate her.
Of course they do.
Because they can't date her.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the First Lady of the United States, Mrs. Melania
very nice
Trump.
entrance. This is great. And
boy,
by the way,
they're really
it's no secret.
this well.
They are. And it's no secret that Melania Trump, when she married Mr. Trump, this was not part of the bargain. She had no idea that this is what her life was going to be.
She's like, Yeah, she thought she was just marrying a regular billionaire.
Right. But she has embraced her role, and absolutely, it really is despicable the way she has been ignored for the most part by the mainstream media. Let's see if she mentions that. Let's see if she...
She won't. She doesn't need them. She doesn't care. She's got so much more class than they ever will. Big fan of marrying immigrant models.
Good evening. It seems like just yesterday that we were at our first convention, where my husband accepted the Republican nomination and then became our 45th President of the United States. Yet the energy and enthusiasm for who should lead this nation, it is real today as it was 4 years ago. I know I speak for my husband and the entire family when I say we have not forgotten the incredible people who were willing to take a chance on the businessmen who had never worked in politics. We know it was you who elected him to be Commander-in-Chief, and we know it is you who will carry us through again. We were humbled by the incredible support then, and we are still grateful today. I want to acknowledge the fact that since March, our lives have changed drastically. The invisible enemy, COVID-19, swept across our beautiful country and impacted all of us. My deepest sympathy goes out to everyone who has lost a loved one. And my prayers are with those who are ill or suffering. I know many people are anxious and some feel helpless. I want you to know you're not alone. My husband's administration will not stop fighting until there is an effective treatment or vaccine available to everyone. Donald will not rest until he has done all he can to take care of everyone impacted by this terrible pandemic. I want to extend my gratitude to all of the healthcare professionals, frontline workers and teachers who stepped up in these difficult times. Despite the risk to yourselves and your own families, you put our country first, and my husband and I are grateful. I have been moved by the way Americans have come together in such an unfamiliar and often frightening situation. It is in times like this that we will look back and tell our grandchildren that through kindness and compassion, strength and determination, we were able to restore the promise of our future. Businesses stepped up and volunteers stepped in. People were eager to share ideas, resources, and support of all kinds with neighbors and strangers alike. It has been inspiring to see what the people of our great nation will do for one another, especially when we are at our most fragile. Speaking of strength and determination, we recently celebrated the 100-year anniversary of the passage of the 19th Amendment. Yesterday, on the North Lawn of the White House, we unveiled an exhibit dedicated to women's suffrage. The exhibit called on children from across the country to send art honoring the meaning of this important time in women's history. When I was judging the entries, I reflected on the impact of women's voices in our nation's story, and how proud I will be to cast my vote again for Donald this November. We must make sure that women are heard and that the American dream continues to thrive. Growing up as a young child in Slovenia, which was under communist rule at the time, I always heard about an amazing place called America, a land that stood for freedom and opportunity. As I grew older, it became my goal to move to the United States and follow my dream of working in the fashion industry. My parents worked very hard to ensure our family could not only live and prosper in America, but also contribute to a nation that allows for people to arrive with a dream and make it reality. I want to take the moment to thank my mother and father for all they have done for our family. It is because of you that I'm standing here today. I arrived in the United States when I was 26 years old. Living and working in the land of opportunity was a dream come true, but I wanted more. I wanted to be a citizen. After 10 years of paperwork and patience, I studied for the test in 2006 and became an American citizen. It is still one of the proudest moments in my life because with hard work and determination, I was able to achieve my own American dream. As an immigrant and a very independent woman, I understand what a privilege it is to live here and to enjoy the freedoms and opportunities that we have. As First Lady, I have been fortunate to see the American dream come true over and over again. I have met many inspiring women, children, parents, and families who have overcome life-changing issues that include addiction, homelessness, family members who are ill or have passed away, abuse of all kinds, and many other challenges that would make most people give up. The past 3.5 years have been unforgettable. There are no words to describe how honored, humbled, and fortunate I am to serve our nation as your First Lady. After many of the experiences I've had, I don't know if I can fully explain how many people I take home with me in my heart each day. From brave soldiers who give up so much so that we can be free, to children of all circumstances who I have met around the world. Thank you for inspiring me. It is my greatest honor to serve you. When I speak to members of the military, despite sacrificing time with their families, experience the fear of war or suffering loss, they have no regrets about serving our country. The same goes for their families and the families of first responders who often watch their loved ones walk out the door, not sure if or when they will come home. When I speak to families who have lost someone, the pain mixed with pride I hear in their voices is something I think about often. So thank you to all who serve our country in the military and as first responders. And thank you to the families who wait for them. You are our heroes in your own right. I have also been moved by the many children and families I've spent time with at hospitals, schools, and other locations around the world. Children who are dealing with pain or illness that would break even the strongest adult. Parents who are grateful to wake up every day and see that their child is still alive. These families are a testament to what faith and medicine, strength and science can do. On my first international trip as First Lady, my husband and I visited places of great significance to the three major religions, Islam, Christianity, and Judaism. One special memory from that trip is of a young boy I had privilege of visiting while at Bambino Gesù Hospital in Rome, Italy. While there, I read the little boy a story and learned that he and his family had been waiting for a heart for a very long time, and he had a grim prognosis. His situation brought my staff and me to tears, and we spoke of a little else as we flew to Belgium for the next part of our trip. Upon landing just a few hours later, we learned that a heart had been donated and would be going to the little one. I think about him often, along with so many amazing and strong young patients across our own country. More profound and sadly unavoidable examples of our country's strength and character have occurred in the communities that have been impacted by natural disasters. Hurricanes, tornadoes, and flooding may show the ugly side of Mother Nature, but in their aftermath, they can show us a beautiful side of humanity. My husband and I have visited many places that have been affected by natural disaster, and we are deeply moved by the strength of the people who have lost everything and the kindness of neighbors and communities. The common thread in all of these challenging situations is the unwavering resolve to help one another. I recognize the stories I just told about people who survive extraordinary circumstances. But Donald and I are also inspired by the millions of Americans who wake up each day with a simple yet courageous goal of providing for their families and keeping them safe. You are the backbone of this country. You are the people who continue to make the United States of America what it is, and who have the incredible responsibility of preparing our future generations to leave everything even better than they found it. Just as you are fighting for your families, my husband, our family, and the people in this administration are here fighting for you. No matter the amount of negative or false media headlines or attacks from the other side, Donald Trump has not and will not lose focus on you. He loves this country, and he knows how to get things done. As you have learned over the past 5 years, he is not a traditional politician. He doesn't just speak words. He demands action, and he gets results. The future of our country has always been very important to him, and it is something that I have always admired. In fact, it is to help ensure a better future for our next generation that I launched Be Best, my initiative to help children achieve their fullest potential. Be Best has one simple goal: teaching youth about the importance of their well-being, both mentally and physically. This also includes understanding online safety and the dangers of opioid and drug abuse. Through Be Best, my office and I have been able to highlight people, programs, and organizations that are doing extraordinary things in our country and around the world. I continue to believe that by shining a light on these positive examples, others across the country and globe will become inspired to do their part for our next generation. Helping children is not a political goal. It is our moral imperative. When I think back to a defining moment of Be Best, my mind goes to a trip I took to Africa. On that vast and beautiful continent, I was able to visit the countries of Ghana, Malawi, Kenya, and Egypt. One of those visits, in particular, had a profound impact on me. Ghana, on the coast of West Africa, was the first stop on my trip, and I experienced firsthand its warm people and their traditions. While there, I visited the Cape Coast Castle and learned more about the beginning of a cruel and often deadly journey in the era of the slave trade. I was horrified when I listened to the guide tell me so many inhumane stories, and I gained new perspectives. It is time in our history we must never forget, so that we can ensure that it never happens again. Like all of you, I have reflected on the racial unrest in our country. It is a harsh reality that we are not proud of parts of our history. I encourage people to focus on our future while still learning from our past. We must remember that today we are all one community comprised of many races, religions, and ethnicities. Our diverse and storied history is what makes our country strong, and yet we still have so much to learn from one another. With that in mind, I like to call on the citizens of this country to take a moment, pause, and look at things from all perspectives. I urge people to come together in a civil manner so we can work and live up to our standard American ideals. I also ask people to stop the violence and looting being done in the name of justice, and never make assumptions based on the color of a person's skin. Instead of tearing things down, let's reflect on our mistakes, be proud of our evolution, and look to our way forward. Every day, let us remember that we are one nation under God, and we need to cherish one another. My husband's administration has worked to try and effect change when it comes to issues around race and religion in this country. He is the first president to address a special session of the United Nations General Assembly to call upon countries across the world to end religious persecution and honor the right of every person to worship as they choose. He has made substantial investments in our historically Black colleges and universities. This president also continues to fight for school choice, giving parents more options to help their children flourish. My husband knows how to make a real change. From the day that I met him, he has only wanted to make this country the best it can be. For many years, I watched him grow concerned and frustrated, and I'm so proud to see the many things he has done in such a short time. America is in his heart. So while at times we only see the worst of people and politics on the evening news, let's remember how we come together in the most difficult times. And while debate rages on about issues of race, let's focus on the strides we have made and work together for a better tomorrow for everyone. Our administration has also devoted historic resources and produced life-saving results by raising awareness around opioid addiction and drug abuse, especially for children. When so often the headlines are filled with gossip, I want to take this moment to encourage the media to focus even more on the nation's drug crisis. This disease is one that affects everybody. It pays no attention to race, age, or socioeconomic status. Addiction has touched every part of our society in some way. And now, more than ever, we have programs and medicine to combat it. We just need to talk about it openly. And you, the media, have the platforms to make that happen. To the media industry and as a country, I ask that we all commit to helping in our fights against drug addiction by talking about it even more. Especially as we battle the COVID pandemic, we need to remember that suicides are on the rise as people who are struggling with loneliness and addiction feel they have nowhere to turn. Parents, please talk to your children. Teachers and caregivers, pay attention to signs of addiction. Lawmakers, pass legislation that allows those who ask for help to do so safely and without fear, and to provide resources for organizations that help people impacted by addiction. When the stigma is removed, people will no longer be ashamed to ask for help, and lives will be saved. And if you are struggling with addiction, there is no shame in your illness. Please seek help. You are worth it. In my next 4 years as First Lady, I will continue to build upon Be Best and work with individual states to pass legislation to take care of our most vulnerable. I plan to continue the work I have started with children in foster care, as well as the minority communities and tribal nations. I want to ensure children are being protected and communities have the resources needed to combat drug addiction and child neglect or abuse. Like my husband and the administration, I will continue to encourage education that supports a child's individual needs. It is vital that children are given the building blocks to succeed. I also look forward to continue my work to restore the People's House, which is a lasting symbol of pride for our nation. I believe this iconic home needs to be cared for and preserved so it can be enjoyed by the people of this country and visitors from around the world for years to come. I'm passionate about this beautiful house, the grounds, and all they represent. And now I have a special message for the mothers of this country. This modern world is moving so fast, and our children face challenges that seem to change every few months. Just like me, I know many of you watch how mean and manipulative social media can be. And just like me, I'm sure many of you are looking for answers how to talk to your children about the downside of technology and their relationships with their peers. Like every parent in this country, I feel there are so many lessons to teach our son and responsibilities as his mother, but there are just not enough hours in the day to do it all. I remind myself that I'm more fortunate than most and still have days that I look for wisdom and strength to do the very best I can for him. To mothers and parents everywhere, you are warriors. In my husband, you have a president who will not stop fighting for you and your families. I see how hard he works each day and night, and despite the unprecedented attacks from the media and opposition, he will not give up. In fact, if you tell him he cannot be done, he just works harder. Donald is a husband who supports me in all that I do. He has built an administration with an unprecedented number of women in leadership roles and has fostered an environment where the American people are always the priority. He welcomes different points of view and encourages thinking outside of the box. I know I speak for my husband and the family when I say we are so grateful that you have trusted him to be your president, and we will be honored to serve this incredible country for 4 more years. As you have heard this evening, I don't want to use this precious time attacking the other side, because as we saw last week, that kind of talk only serves to divide the country further. I'm here because we need my husband to be our president and commander-in-chief for 4 more years. He is what is best for our country. We all know Donald Trump makes no secrets about how he feels about things. Total honesty is what we as citizens deserve from our president. Whether you like it or not, you always know what he's thinking. And that is because he's an authentic person who loves this country and its people and wants to continue to make it better. Donald wants to keep your family safe. He wants to help your family succeed. He wants nothing more than for this country to prosper, and he doesn't waste time playing politics. Almost 4 years ago, we went into Election Day completely underestimated. Despite what is being said again this year, I know, just as you do, that Americans will go to the polls and vote on the behalf of their families, our economy, our national security, and our children's future. To vote for those ideals is not a partisan vote. It is a common sense vote, because those are goals and hopes that we all believe in. I believe that we need my husband's leadership now more than ever in order to bring us back once again to the greatest economy and the strongest country ever known. God bless you all, your families, and God bless the United States of America.
Well, maybe, may I be the first to wish everyone a good morning.
I think we ought to break for breakfast.
That, a very nice speech from First Lady Melania Trump. It did feel a little long, the longest speech of the convention, in fact. I guarantee you, without actually having to check the statistics.
Clocking in at 7 months, 4 days, 9 hours, and 12 minutes. Look, it was a lovely speech. She's a lovely woman. She had lovely things to say, but you don't have to say everything. One of the beautiful things about this convention is brevity. Get in there, make your point, move on.
Cut right to it. Yes, exactly. And and frankly, and again, I don't want to criticize. She was fine. She's beautiful. She delivered it beautifully. And it's very personal because obviously she's talking about her husband, but I wish she talked about her husband more. But let me put, there are a couple of things that she said, I think, that were really important. You know, this whole Michelle Obama thing, when they go low, we go high, which is the biggest freaking lie in America. They are the lowest of the low. When they go low, we go high. Oh, and by the way, he's Hitler, and he's putting children in cages, and he's responsible for hundreds of thousands of deaths,
Well, maybe it's very clear she was counter-programming to Michelle. She came out and said, I am what you want as a first lady. I'm out here, I'm talking about first lady things. I'm supporting my husband. I'm not attacking the other side. And I think that was valuable. I don't know if it got lost in the sea of words.
She specifically said,
I'm sitting there thinking...
I have the quote here. It actually was very good. I don't want to waste this precious time attacking the other side. That I think that resonates with people. We want somebody to rise above the mean-spirited politics that we've experienced, and she's the perfect person to rise above that. Of course, she will be attacked by the media as, oh, what a contrast to her president. She doesn't want to, attack the other side, but her husband will. It's get over yourselves. It's obnoxious.
Yeah, there was nothing for her. There was nothing to attack her about. Any attack on her seems purely mean-spirited. And you and I are not attacking anybody. We're just saying, hey, the production, it probably could have been a little more effective, 5-10 minutes shorter.
Tighten it up. In contrast to what has been now 2 nights in, an incredibly tight, incredibly succinct, incredibly polished and smooth presentation of speakers, videos, and the ability to cut right to an idea and a theme. This stood apart from that in that it was long. It was a little too long.
I think it was a little too long, but it was a little different than everything else. Let me ask you something, because you are the professional on putting on productions. I was having some doubts that they could maintain momentum tonight, and I kind of feel they did. I mean, everything can't be A. You hammock your material. Your A material, then your B, or your B material, then your C material, then your A material. That's traditionally how you do it. And I mean, I don't think this was bad. I don't think it was as great as yesterday, but I think it was damn good.
No, it was good. It was good. It wasn't as good as yesterday. This is definitely and by the way, just based on lineup, this was going to be the weakest night. No offense to the First Lady or the Secretary of State, but tomorrow you've got the Vice President, you've got Senator Marsha Blackburn, Senator Joni Ernst, Governor Kristi Noem, Congressman Dan Crenshaw, Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, Rick Grinnell is tomorrow night. Kellyanne Conway is tomorrow.
That's going to kill it.
Yeah, I mean that's a bit, and then of course Thursday night is the president himself, along with Ben Carson, along with Tom Cotton, along with Ivanka, along with Rudy Giuliani. That tonight was going to be the lull, and it was. It wasn't. It was good. It wasn't as good as last night, and it's not as good as what we're going to see tomorrow and Thursday.
Well, and frankly, I don't think you could have kept yesterday up for 4 days. And I think it's going to be, I think maybe they'll be able to do it for 3 days. And then today was good. It was not just fine. It was better than just fine. Right. And look, I'm the most critical guy on earth, too. So
it's true. You are. Let's reset things here for those of you. For those of you who have been with us all evening, we appreciate it. It's Townhall Media's live coverage of the Republican National Convention. I want to feel like this is sort of what we would be doing had we been able to go to Charlotte. We would have been having a huge, fabulous party where we'd all be around in the same room with the cameras going. We would be drunker. Although, no, I'm not drunk. And we will continue to have this live coverage where you can watch, listen to our commentary, and then also check out the townhall.com live blogging that is going on through the evening as well. A couple of final thoughts. We haven't had a chance to reflect yet on some of these speeches because they went rapid fire at the end there. And I want to go back and get your reaction. Oh, wait, you got to see this. Kurt, she may have finally tweeted herself into cancellation. Bette Midler, crazy lunatic.
The wind beneath my ass.
She just tweeted out, and I think this is not going to go well for her. She tweeted, "Oh God, she still can't speak English." What a bitch. What?
Yeah.
Yeah,
like I said, I tweeted out earlier today, and I got grief from leftists. I think it went some to the effect of, did anyone notice how the Republican women don't look like bitter Democrat harridans? Just saying. Because if you're ugly on the inside, you are ugly on the outside.
I think you may have tried that line out on the stream last night. Let's talk about Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron. A great presentation. Obviously a rising star, young African-American Republican. This one line, I mean, he had a lot of great lines. This is one that jumped out at me. Joe Biden is a backward thinker in a world craving forward-thinking leadership. That's fine wordsmith.
That's it. That's the critique.
Well, and
he nailed it.
To have a black man standing there pointing at the camera saying, Joe Biden thinks that because I'm black, I'm supposed to vote a certain way. I look at me. I am my own man. I will vote for who I want to vote for. I mean, it was incredibly powerful to have him deliver that message directly to
it was. And, we have the Republican Party is becoming more diverse, not just in, like last night you pointed out that, a few decades ago we would have the, minority at Chicks Night. And the thing is, and because you're involved in it too, there's no discussion of anybody's origin or gender or any of that when we get together. There's not like any secret meetings. It doesn't matter to us, and we're starting to see that come through, and it's organic, and it doesn't look staged. I mean, these are people a senator, an attorney general. These are important folks.
Yep.
Who are doing real jobs.
Let's wrap things up here with final thoughts here. I already gave you the rundown for tomorrow night. Obviously, the big speech will be the Vice President of the United States and the Second Lady. Don't know if that. Well, Rick Grinnell. You and I, obviously, huge fans of the former.
Oh yeah.
Acting Director of National Intelligence and Ambassador to Germany. I don't know if you've Rick Grinnell. Listen, he's gay. He's the highest-ranking gay official in the history of American politics. He has been. He's never really worn that on his sleeve. He's never led with it. He's never said, "Hey, I'm a gay man. Look at me. Look at." But just in the last couple of weeks, Kurt, he has been very outspoken about the advancements of gay rights, international gay rights under Donald Trump, in contrast to Joe Biden doing pretty much nothing in the Senate. I wonder if you think that's going to be part of the message tomorrow night.
I don't know what the message is going to be. And I tried to get it. I was like, you got to let me read your speech. And, he's like, leave me alone, internet rando. No, I think, though, tomorrow is a speech. It is his debut, really, for a lot of Republicans. It is his. Sorry, my battery's going down. It's a damn NSA again. It is. It's a very important speech, and I think he's going to take some. I think he's going to take some time and do a good job on it.
Yep, I think so too.
But I don't know what's going to be in it exactly. I think, though, he will deliver a stiletto blow. I mean, I think he's gonna. I think when he sticks the knife in, it's going to hurt.
Yeah. No, he's
how he rolls.
He's very good at it, and he is the honey badger of the party. He does not give an F.
No, he does not. There is not a give to give.
I will give you my biggest takeaway from tonight, and then you can have the final word tonight, Kurt. But honestly, to me, as I look back on the entire thing, it was that 3 or 4 minute pre-recorded presentation of Nicholas Sandmann in front of the Lincoln Memorial. I think that was a high point. I know it seems crazy, but that young teenage boy represented so much about what is wrong in this country right now because of the insanity of the left. And he persevered and showed poise, and he showed courage, and that final defiant, putting his hat back on, saying, I'm here, deal with it. I thought that was huge. I loved it. I loved Nick Sandmann tonight.
I think he was great, and I think a lot of people look at him and think, hey man, that could have been us. That could have been my kid. That could have been me. Just out there speaking, just out there doing what he wanted to do, and they treated him like that. That's not right. I think it was very powerful.
Yeah. Anything else that you want to add to this as we wrap up our town hall media coverage of the convention?
I think we said all that should be said.
We'll look forward to your.
We keep going on. We're just going to start talking about the bulwark guys, and it's just going to descend into chaos.
You know how that ends up, and Jerry Falwell Jr. will end up. You know what? I believe I was one of his last interviews. I should play it for you. It was weird. I think he. Well, I don't want to. Well, we'll save our Jerry Falwell Jr. talk for our next VIP Gold chat that we
damn well will
on Townhall Media. That's behind the paywall. If you want to see us uncensored and unplugged, join Townhall Media as a VIP Gold member, and Kurt and I do a weekly show every Thursday night, and there are no holds barred, no rules, and I'll tell you,
no rules.
My take on Jerry Falwell Jr. In the meantime, thank you for joining us. Thank you to Katie Pavlich for kicking us off. Thank you to Chris DeGaulle. Thank you to Beth Bauman. Thank you to Kurt Schlichter. Thank you for being a part of Townhall Media. Thank you, Micah, our great producer and technical coordinator for the whole thing. And we'll be back here tomorrow again, a little after 8 o'clock for our pre-show festivities, and then the convention kicks off at 8:30 once again, and we'll be here through the whole thing for your video streaming pleasure and commentary and analysis. Keep those emails coming. We appreciate it very much. Kurt Schlichter, you have a great evening there on the left coast, and we'll see you tomorrow.
You too. Bye-bye.
Good night, everybody.